Hello there, friends. This is Spencer Michaud, and today we're going to be talking about the full moon in the second decan of Capricorn. I hope that you're doing well out there, my friends. It's been quite a week, hasn't it? With all the, I don't know, we're kind of trying to see through all the haze, literally and figuratively here. But hopefully, I'll be able to provide a beacon of light for you today, and we will get through all of it together as we build towards this Capricorn full moon opposing the Cancer sun. We're going to go through all the details that we normally go through here on this channel. We're going to look at the full moon through the houses. We're going to look at the host of the full moon, Saturn. We're going to look at tarot cards associated with this lunation. We're going to just have a great Friday afternoon chat and see how things go. I hope that you're all doing well out there. As I mentioned before, we've been dealing with really challenging air quality here in the Midwest of the United States. There's been a lot of wildfires and wildflowers in my backyard, but the ones that haven't been eaten by the groundhog. There's a dastardly groundhog that's been eating all my flower buds. But yeah, we've been dealing with wildfires here in the Midwest, and the smoke that's been coming from the really challenging circumstances up in northeastern Canada right now. So kind of struggling through the forces of nature and being humbled in the face of nature this week. So I hope that all of you are staying safe, and I know that the changing circumstances and the effects of climate change are affecting a lot of us in all sorts of different parts of the world. So I just wanted to extend my empathy and compassion for what everyone's going through, whether it's heat, storms, air pollution, whatever it is. We're going to have to try to adapt, I think. And I'll talk about that a little bit today, especially in regards to Uranus and how that might be, how we might see that in an astrological chart and whatnot. So I just want to welcome a few friends here, and then we'll kind of get rolling. Rachel Fletcher is here from Roanoke, Virginia. Nice to see you. For those of you in North America, hope you're staying safe in the smoky air. Amen, Rachel. We've had, there's a measurement of the air quality that you can get on an app for your phone now. And we've a dangerous level is anything really above 100. I think medium quality is 50 to 100. And we've been seeing dangerous code purple air quality alerts over 200. I believe it's AQI, air quality index, something like that. I'm learning all these things right along with all of you, I think, and trying to make sense of it all. But you can literally see the blue sky has been completely whited out, and the sun is a really creepy orange, and it's very difficult to breathe just going outside if you're not wearing a mask and things of that nature. So just adjusting in real time with all of you. So yeah, Rachel, shouting out the smoky air. Callie at the beach is here. Nice to see you, friend. I hope that the beach there is treating you well. Ventura, California. Tarja is here. It says she is having thunderstorms in Finland. Well, send some gentle rain our way. We could use it. But I hope that you're staying safe there, Tarja. Beth EK White is here. 5G today. Nice. You'll have a clear stream hopefully today, Beth. So cheers to you and your nice internet connection. Josh Habermel, hello friend. He's here today. Hey kids, greetings from the heart of the Midwest. Hope that you're doing well and staying safe too, my friend. Hope that the storm fronts that have been going through your area have been kind to you and that you've been staying safe. KP1231, hi everyone from Cleveland. This is Smokey here too. Many headaches, irritated eyes this week, listening from work. Thank God it's Friday. Yeah, I hear you. I've been, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna admit something because I feel like we're amongst friends here. I've been a combination of angry and sad this week. Like my first reaction was just anger at all of this and the challenges that we're going through. And I don't know, the accumulated indifference that we've kind of had to, work through as a community, but from the powers that be that have the power to change this, and even in our own individual lives, a lot of this writing has been on the wall for a long time, and it's been, there's a lot of us that have been talking a lot about it, but it's, until it's really in your face, sometimes it's harder to enact that change in the collective and through the masses. And so I just got really upset and posted a little bit out of character earlier this week on my Instagram, just kind of trying to release that sadness and anger. But behind all of it was a deep, deep sense of grief, I think, for the circumstances that we see ourselves in. For me, the outdoors and nature and the clear skies and the flowers and the trees have been a source of refuge over the course of, especially during the pandemic, when we've been all disconnected, and sometimes you felt like you could go outside and have a nice walk and kind of feel a sense of freedom, even when we were kind of locked down and apart from each other. And to have that be taken away was really painful and really challenging. So I'm trying to make sense of it with all of you. I don't have great solutions yet today. I'll talk about a little bit of that. There was some of that in the book that we just read, The Flowering Wand by Sophie Strand, that talked about things that you can do in the face of a changing climate, ecology, changing circumstances. And I'll try to touch on that today, but I don't have a miracle solution, and I wish I did. So again, we're just kind of living this out in real time. It's just really interesting to witness. But yes, very sad, a lot of grief and sadness, just that's been the feeling. So, I'll try not to belabor it too much today, but this is really the reality that we're living in, and I don't want to ignore it. I don't want to just cast it aside and be like, everything's fine, because it's not. I can't even go outside on a walk without eyes tearing up and my chest starting to hurt, and that to me is very concerning. So I'm so happy, though, that you're here with me today, and I'm happy that we still have this beautiful community where we can maybe put our heads together and see, what are we going to do? What are you doing in the face of these changes that are coming? How are you preparing? How are you making adjustments? What ideas do you have as far as how we as a community can start making changes, or put pressure on the powers that be that need to help us make those changes, that maybe control more of the, the powerful entities that may be able to make that change on the larger scale necessary to improve things. So yeah, leave me a comment. Again, this has been part of my week, just processing. So we'll say hello to a few more friends. So thanks, KP1231, for sharing your experience there in Cleveland. Jody says, greetings. Jody Arrington's here from South Florida, pouring rain here, listening, driving home from work. So welcome, Jody. Nice to see you, friend. Always nice to see you in the chat. Rose T is here. Hello, everyone. Yay, finally caught alive. Oh, yes, we've been getting smoky air here in Ontario, Canada. Oh, Rose, I'm sorry, friend. Yeah, you're probably getting hit really hard, being even closer to the wildfires in Quebec, I would imagine. So hope you're hanging in there, friend. It's always been a little bit of a American dream for some certain factions of the population. Myself and my partner sort of dream about it every once in a while, like, maybe we just move to Canada. And now it's really the point has been really hammered home in the last few months, is there's nowhere that you're going to be able to escape the changes that are going to be happening. We're all in this together, and we need to kind of unify and work on it together as a global community, not just as individuals or individual countries or whatnot. I do think thinking about these things from a local perspective is important, but again, there's nowhere to hide from this stuff. And I've made the mistake in the past of maybe trying to escape a little bit, mentally and physically, and it just never works. So we have to face it courageously head on. Robert is here. Hello, Robert. Hello from Kalamazoo. We'll be here part of the time. Well, I'm glad you're joining us, Robert. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Welcoming a few more friends in the chat. Robin Adira is here. Hi, Spencer. I'm Robin Campbell from Healdsburg, California. Nice to meet you, Robin. I'm seeing some new names in the chat. I love this. Welcome, friends. You are all welcome here. And we have a really nice community, so I hope that you'll find some value in our talk today. Callie at the beach says, I'm well. Luckily, our air quality is good. My daughter's wedding went well on Sunday, so happy for Friday in this group. Nice. Well, that's the thing. We're all going to have different turns, I think, dealing with some of the challenges. I think people on the West Coast really got hammered. I don't know if this was last year or 2 years ago, but dealing with the forest fires in Portland and all of that area, the Pacific Northwest. Sometimes there's going to be people dealing with tornadoes or hurricanes or heat waves, like in the southern part of the United States right now. I mean, it's all going to kind of go in waves. And I think that what I'm trying to do and what I would encourage all of you to do is pace yourself. I think that I got really flustered in the middle of the week when the reality of it was starting to sink in even heavier. A lot of the times we think about these things intellectually, but then when you look outdoors and you literally can't see the tree line across the street from you, it's a whole different level of impact mentally and physically and emotionally. And I think that we're going to have to slow down and figure out how we're going to sustain our hope, really, through these challenges. We're going to have to appreciate the good times when, honestly, when the air quality is good, you get out and make hay while the sun is shining, and know when to buckle down when the real challenges are happening, when the real difficult times are coming as well. And supporting each other and each other as neighbors as well. I think that's one of the things I've really been thinking about, is how can we band together as communities to help one another. I mean, just a little, thought process around this, friends. In the last 6 months here in my hometown of Ypsilanti, Michigan, Southeast Michigan, we've had a once in a 50-year ice storm, once in 50-year intensity of ice storm that just decimated the trees in our neighborhood. Just all the trees were just falling down. And we personally were without power for 7 days in a row, power and heat for 7 days in a row. And we've been losing power regularly. A lot of people really helped our cause here, donating to our generator fund. And we're in the process of getting an electrician out here, and we've got a generator on the way. So these are little preparations that we've been doing to kind of build in resiliency during these times. I bought an air filter this week. It's called a Marento. I think it's a HY 48668 or something like that. It's for about a 1,200 square foot area. And just little things like that to be prepared for the challenges and to face the reality so that we can keep living, right? And there may have to be little adjustments like that we have to make along the way. But the frequency of these challenging weather events has very much increased in my area, and probably in your area as well. Let's see. Josh says, no storms by me. Everything's been north of me. We are dry, dry, dry. But class with Adam has been eye-opening. Oh, nice. Well, I'm glad that it's the storms are not providing a huge impact, but probably could use some rain pretty soon, huh? So yeah, that's one of the reasons that we're seeing this increase in intensity of these wildfires, is that as the planet warms, all these, we're gonna have less rain, we're gonna have less water in these forests, and it's just like a big pile of kindling that is ready for a match, whether it's lightning or an accident and like a camping experience or something like that. So I guess I would encourage you, if you're celebrating the 4th of July this weekend, to maybe think very carefully if you're going to celebrate with fireworks, or maybe consider canceling your fireworks altogether. That feels like a pretty dangerous thing with how dry things are at this point. I'm just your resident Cancerian dad energy here. I'm not trying to be too much of a bummer. I'm just trying to be a realist. And I think that a lot of I'm seeing what's happening out in our world, and I'm just trying to process that along with you. Valerie Mayer is here. Thank God it's Friday. I picked blueberries this morning. My favorite aunt just passed. Oh, I'm sorry, friend. Well, hopefully we'll provide a little bit of support for you here today in your challenging circumstances. And blueberries is a good way to go. That's a good way to get some antioxidants in your system. And I posted a little video on my Instagram after my darker day. I had posted a video of this little kid that was like crying, and they brought him some food. They're like, what? They're like, ooh, ah. It was just, so sometimes just those little things, like having a delicious little piece of fruit can brighten our day a little bit. So we're with you, Valerie. Cookerzilla's here. Hello, friend. Nice to see you from Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia. Hope that you're staying safe up there, up in Canada. Carolyn Perkins is here from Carmel Valley, California. Hello, Carolyn. Nice to see you as well. Robert has got a long post for us. Robert has thoughts about bad forestry policy. Yeah, that might be part of it, but I don't think it's all of it. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that comment, Robert. I think that climate change is here, it's real, and trying to blame it on bad forestry management, I mean, we're just not going to agree on that. And, we could still be friends, and while still acknowledging that climate change is a real thing and that really requires a response. Beth says, I've been thinking about a podcast leading to the charge into the world of Pluto and Aquarius and away from the era of capitalist servitude. I'm afraid I'm an idealist without a lot of grounding my Mars. Yeah, interesting perspective. Robert, all these things are related to policy based on greed, political or corporate. Yeah, Beth, I agree that I would love to work on moving away from the era of capitalist servitude 100%. And I'm not trying to start a conflict with Robert either. Honestly, I just kind of skimmed over his comment as well. So I'm sure that he and I could have an intellectual debate about forestry policy, which is one part of the challenge. It's one part, while also acknowledging that climate change is real and having an effect on our reality today. So I know we're not all going to agree on the reasons about all this or even the solutions, but the first thing we need to do is recognize that we are staring a crisis in the face and start to do something about it as a collective. Painted Turtle is here. Spencer, I've been watching for a while and finally on the chat. I come for the astrology, but I will stay for the dreamy Jeff Buckley vibes. Okay, well, I would like to stay for the dreamy Jeff Buckley vibes too, Painted Turtle. I was actually, that's funny that you mentioned Jeff Buckley. Cheers to you. I was listening to my Pandora radio as we were starting this whole journey here today, this morning, and Hallelujah live at Chenet, the coffee shop he used to play at, was on right before I started this live stream. So yeah, you're on the wavelengths today, friend. Robert says, I agree, climate change is real. How policy is implemented is the issue and needs to be investigated. Okay, yeah, fair enough, Robert. And I don't mean to, like I said, I don't mean to gloss over that. That conversation is probably extremely nuanced and a longer one that we can have here today as we try to get to the astrology of the time. So, I know we all mean well and we're all trying. So I think we need to just keep the conversation going. I think that that's the real thing that we need to do for sure. Jiva Maya is here from the UK. Nice to see you. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. Nice to see you, friend. Thank you, Beth, for your super sticker. I appreciate you. That's one of the ways that you can support the channel. The first thing you can do is make sure you like this video. That really helps us to the algorithm to get this video out to the more amount of people. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell. The best thing you can do is subscribe to my newsletter to know when we're going live. That's a thing that you can do and you can find on my website, spencermichaud.com. And share it with your friends. Tell your friends about this. Word of mouth is the best gift that you can give me as well. But if you want to make a material donation in the work that I'm doing here today, you can use that little $sign in the chat. It's called a super chat or a super sticker. And that helps me keep the lights on. It goes towards our emergency funds here, book funds, whatever, just life funds. This is my full-time job. And, you can also donate after the fact with a little super thanks, which is a heart, or at buymeacoffee.com. So there you go. One business thing out of the way. Painted Turtle says, laughing for the Saturn and Pisces transits. We'll talk about that today. Oh, someone needs to redo All Flowers in Time. Great track. Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar, Jeff Buckley was probably my biggest influence as an artist, as a musician. And I used to do these tribute concerts for him in Chicago and in Toronto, where I was so fortunate to be able to sing on stage with his mom, Mary Guibert, who is a wonderful lady. And he's just been a powerful influence in my life. And you can see some of those performances on my music channel, Spencer Michaud Music, if you want to check that out or subscribe to that channel. There's some stuff on there, and maybe I'll revisit it one of these days in the future. Thank you, Callie at the beach, for your super sticker. I appreciate you, friend. Jiva Maya says, normally my husband and I listen to music and have a bit of a moody Friday evening after work, but he's gone straight to bed. Why we're so tired this week. Oh, well, means I get to be here. Well, I'm glad that you're spending your Friday evening with us. And, I think that there's just been a lot going on, friends. It's okay if you're tired. It's okay if you're exhausted. It's okay if you've been just trying to make it through another day in these rapidly changing times where we're having to make adjustments. Callie says, I wonder why I can't do whole dollars like others. Every choice ends in 99. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's okay. It looks cool on the screen, I guess. Raven is here, says, stopping in late. I'm traveling from New Mexico back to home in Kansas and I didn't have service. Well, nice to see you, Raven. I hope you're doing well and that your travels are treating you well. Raven was an awesome contributor in some of our group classes here, which I wanted to tell you about before we dive into the astrology of the full moon. I do have a new guided group study group that's starting a week from Monday. Okay, so it'll be starting on July the 10th. This is guided group study, summer session of 2023. We are going to be reading The Secrets of the Waite-Smith Tarot by Marcus Katz and Tally Goodwin. I am very excited about this book. This book is not only an introductory course to learning about and reading about tarot, but it also contextualizes it in the history of what the artist and the author were going through at the time that they created the deck, which is super important. We've been talking about this in my guided group study class for the Flowering Wand about mycelial networks of meaning that are underground, that pop up as fruiting bodies or mushrooms in various times and places. And by understanding the context of how this deck, the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot deck, fruited up and the elements that were being drawn upon, we can understand that deck and be able to make the adjustments for the time period that we are living in now. Knowing where it came from will help us to understand what is timeless within that deck and what needs to be changed and adjusted. So I'm super excited about this. We had an amazing group this last time. We had a really intelligent group with lots of amazing discussion. We have a Discord group where people continue the conversation after our class. We meet every other week for a couple hours. I'm you know me, I'm not succinct. So we meet for a few hours and really dive in depth. And people sometimes come and go just like they do here. And it's just really a beautiful experience. And we've really created a lot of friendships and community along the way from people all over the world. There's been people joining us from Australia, from Europe, from America, from Canada. It's just really been a wonderful experience. And I hope that you'll join me. I pinned the link to the post on my website where you can sign up for this and get all the information. So please, please, please join me. We are starting in just a little over a week on Monday, July the 10th, and we're going to be going all the way till September. So there is my little plug. You can also purchase the Decans of Cancer right now for 20% off. So if some of the things are resonating with you, the way that I talk about Cancer or even Capricorn, you can get the Decans of Capricorn on my website. It's for sale too. I'm going to show you some of my slides from both of those webinars. 20% off Cancer right now until the end of Cancer season. I am, of course, available for readings. I love meeting with you. I love looking at your natal charts, looking at your natal promise and your mythological stories that have been permeating your entire life. I love helping you through the transits, doing birthday readings, doing single question, like things where we're looking at a specific issue in your life. It's all good, and my books are open, so check it out on my website. Okay, those are all of the business things. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm just looking at the chat again. Jennifer is here. Hello, Jennifer from Ann Arbor, Michigan. You're under the blanket of smoke just like me, aren't you? I hope you're hanging in there, friend, and breathing easy in your whatever space that you're in right now. Dawn Fisher says, hey Spencer, happy birthday. I hope you have a super magical trip around the sun this year. Thanks, Dawn. I'm a week away from my birthday. It's going to be July 7th. So a week from today, I will be turning 43. So I'm hoping to have a live stream on my birthday. So I would love to celebrate with all of you next Friday. So I hope you'll mark your calendars for that, and we'll just have a good birthday celebration. Well, maybe we'll talk new moon stuff, or I don't know, we'll just do a Q&A, something like that. Callie is signed up. Nice, that's you. Okay, very cool. Very cool, Callie. Looking forward to seeing you in class, my friend. Oh no, Raven. So sad I won't be able to be part of this next group. Lots of traveling plans, need all the extra dough. That's okay. I mean, you know, we'll be there. And let me know if things change. I'd be happy to work with you if you need like a payment plan or something too. I do have payment plans available if you need to spread the payments out, friends. So happy to work with you. I just love having the ability for people to participate. Rachel, another Rachel's here. Hey, Spencer and friends, cooking dinner and winding down on a damp Irish Friday evening. Great to join you. Well, nice to see you, friend. Nice to be the background noise for your dinner again, and hopefully we'll touch on some interesting topics today. Yeah, Beth says damp Irish evening sounds lovely, Rachel. Yeah, it does. I would love to visit someday. I would love to visit all of my wonderful friends here that stop in. That would be nice. Don says you haven't hit that big 5-0 yesterday. I'll try to be here next year, but may work interfere, unfortunately. Oh, did you hit the big 5-0, Don? Is it your birthday yesterday? If so, happy birthday. Yeah, that's a big one. And I'm glad that you're here with us. If that is your birthday, sorry if it isn't. But yes. Yeah. Okay, friends. We've got so many amazing comments. I'm trying to keep up with all of them, but let's start talking a little bit of astrology. I love catching up with you, seeing how things are going. Let me know how things are going in your neck of the woods and how things are treating you astrologically and otherwise. We sort of have a loose format here. We talk astrology, we talk sports. Sometimes we venture into some macrocosm issues respectfully, hopefully. We try not to be too divisive, but we try to deal with the challenges from a hopeful perspective, but also a realistic one. Okay, so let's talk about this full moon in Capricorn. What do you say? Okay, I'm going to pull up the screen and just show you a few details from the full moon, and then I will pull up some of the slides. And then we will go through the full moon through the houses too. How's that sound for you? I know that's been a popular feature recently, so I'll try to do that for you. So here we're seeing the full moon in Capricorn. And, well, the moon is opposing the sun, as it does at full moons, from its exile. So this is a position for the moon that isn't as comfortable as it would normally be in a different sign. So we are feeling some tension as we build to this full moon between our need and desire to relax, to recreate, maybe to do some domestic things that are represented by the second decan of Cancer and the Three of Cups card. So if you're familiar with the tarot, the Three of Cups shows the three graces, celebrating and toasting each other in some kind of celebration. And the Three of Pentacles is the card that represents the second decan of Capricorn. And in that card, we see three people working together to build an ornate structure. So it's really a decan of hard work. It's a decan of working together with others. There's a danger of hubristic visions in that decan, so we need to be careful that we're not trying to overshoot the mark at this full moon. But there's probably some tension right now as we build towards this holiday weekend in the United States between some of the work that we need to get done and our desire to be like, oh, I'm just so tired. I'd like to relax and just take it easy. So that's probably part of the thing that we're going to be experiencing. I know that's been going on in my household, that we've just been grinding, and it would be nice to have a break, but there's still some projects that need some attention here that my partner Tanya and I are going to be working on, especially still other parts of our wildflower habitat. I have been posting a few pictures. I had a little groundhog visitor the other day who's been eating my my flower buds, and which is a little frustrating, but also I'm trying to be zen about it because part of the reason I put that in was to create a wildflower habitat or just a wildlife habitat. And, you know, it's for the bees, it's for the birds, and, you know, some of it can be for a groundhog. So trying to be chill about it, but I'm excited about the pops of color that are coming. We're getting some of these little white like baby's breath flowers. We're starting to get some oranges popping, and I've seen a few pinks and purples coming out today too. So I'll have to post more about that. Okay, so let's see. Just checking in on the chat. Oh, everybody's talking about their birthdays. Cancer season. Oh, you were saying that Donna said, I was saying that you haven't hit it yet. And autocorrect went cray. Try to be here next week, but work is crazy. Yeah. Well, you know, there's always the replay if you can't make it live, friends. So I just appreciate you being here when you can, and then listening on your own time when it's convenient for you if you can't. Yeah, Raven says, happy early birthday. We are almost birthday twins. Yeah, happy early birthday to you too, friend. Let's Cancers unite, right? Okay, so a couple of things that we'll do, just a few other details. So we have both the moon and Mercury out of bounds at this full moon. And if you've been following along with the channel, out of bounds planets are ones that are moving sort of outside the normal path or declination of the sun in relationship to the ecliptic. So how high or low the sun rises at noon, okay, in your location is how we're going to determine whether a planet is out of bounds or not. So there is a number to keep in mind, and it's 23 degrees and 36 minutes. So when a planet goes either 26 over that north or south of the ecliptic, it's said to be out of bounds. And that out of bounds planet is going to start acting outside of the social expectations. It also could be considered a more concentrated or pure form of its own energy. So Mercury is going to be more mercurial. The moon is going to be more lunar. Oftentimes with the moon out of bounds, I feel like my body is just like stretched to its limit. It's like maybe I try to push myself beyond what is comfortable, or we're feeling really tired or really emotional, filled up with emotions, and it's difficult to process all of that like we normally would. Mercury out of bounds could be like talking a lot, or having a lot of ideas, or having ideas that are outside of the box. Our conversations could take on a really intense tone as well. We have to be careful with our communications around this period of time so that we don't, I don't know if arguments is a Mercury out of bounds type of thing, but definitely we can act out of character when we're having exchanges with one another. And that can be painful if we allow that to go off the rails. You know, I think a little bit of healthy debate is good, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're, you know, assuming positive intent with one another, knowing when to agree to disagree. You know, like I said, we're all going to have some different experiences and different opinions on things, and we're going to be coming from different backgrounds and life experiences, and we're all going to have a different lens that we're looking through. And sometimes that, you know, brings us to different conclusions. And just respecting everyone's narrative, I think, is really important. This is some of the things that we were talking about in our group study session for the Flowering Wand. Sophie Strand talks a lot about the polyphony of voices in the world, the polyphony of stories. And each of our lives and stories is like a melody line in a symphony. And sometimes those melodies are spotlighted, and sometimes they're in the background. So sometimes our voice will be, you know, out front. Other times it'll be in the background. Sometimes we need to listen. Sometimes we need to rest, like in the symphonic composition. Sometimes there are certain instruments in certain symphonies, and other times they're missing. So the word she uses is assemblage. So we are an assemblage of people, and we come together, sometimes permanently, sometimes for short periods of time. So allowing for those different melodies, allowing for those different narratives and stories is really important. And sometimes it can create something really beautiful. Another track that was on my radio before I was doing my live today was Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, which is just an amazing assemblage of different melodic lines, and they're all very different, and there's even different movements and sections that express different feelings and emotions and experiences. So that's what I would recommend. How do we think about life as a symphonic composition rather than one big capital T truth? If we only had one truth, if we only had one instrument, if we only had one melody that just kept repeating on a loop, it would just be overwhelming, oppressive, and quite frankly, it would be boring. So I think that's the way to deal with the Mercury out of bounds part of this equation, is allowing multiple voices to be heard. Ooh, Jennifer says her blackberries are ripening. Nice. Rachel says, my plants have been inundated with slugs this year. Somehow groundhog sounds nicer as creatures go, but pretty destructive. Yeah, I think they're both equally destructive. Groundhogs, there's a reason why they call them groundhogs, because they can do a lot of damage in really a short period of time. Like this little guy, like this little stinker I was calling him, just burrowed a path through the wildflower garden and just ate the top of like every bud that was about to flower within like a 5-foot radius. Like every single one was just snipped off. And it happened really quickly too, like within a day. So you can imagine how frustrating it is when you're watering them every day and you have the anticipation of seeing the bud get fuller and bigger, and then just the next day it's gone. But there's some Zen lessons within that, and letting go of expectations. This is part of I think the challenge of of Uranus in the third decan of Taurus. So if we think about that, this is a reference to the song of the week as well. The wildfire smoke and the air quality had a really big impact on just my mindset and my creative choices this week also. And I chose Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden, which seemed to reflect sort of the heaviness, the Saturnian heaviness of this third decan of Taurus. Chris Cornell has Jupiter in this third decan of Taurus, which is Saturn ruled, right? And talks about how do we find authenticity and keep our sanity within a system that just isn't really working anymore. And we can go back and forth about why the system isn't working, but I think everyone could acknowledge on some level that the system is somewhat broken and we need to adjust to be able to continue to thrive as a community. So third decan Taurus talks about humility in the face of nature, humility in the face of circumstances that are outside of our control. And one of the main themes of just this summer in general is the series of squares that all the planets from the late stages of Leo have been making to Uranus. And Venus will have made a square to Uranus just shortly before this full moon. Mars made a square to Uranus early last week, or at the beginning of this week. I had been talking about that challenge a lot. I think that my Uranus-Mars experience with Mars on my ascendant and Uranus near my midheaven was getting really angry and sad and frustrated about the state of the environment, something that I just love and appreciate so much and just have so much care and for. I could not hold in my disappointment at the state of things and at the circumstances, and it sort of leaked out a little bit publicly. And I try to keep things pretty positive, but there are times where I feel just such frustration at not being able to, at feeling helpless sometimes. And I know that we're not all helpless at various times, but this is a challenge that is bigger than any one individual. And I think it's okay to feel your feelings around it. But yes, Chris Cornell, Black Hole Sun, literally the sun had changed color that day when I posted that. And the song feels very cathartic in that regard. Let's see. I'm just going to keep looking through the chat and keep checking in. Lives have a special magic, Rachel says, but there's so much to take in here. I always need to come back for the replay. Yeah, we go on a journey for sure. We have a lot of different comments that come in that spark good conversation. we examine a lot of different things, and it's recorded. So yeah, it is a resource that you can come back to. So I'm glad that you do. Let's see. Rachel, Beth says we've had maybe 4 rains since May here in Wisconsin. Humid is a memory. Wow. Yeah, that's the thing. Like our weather patterns have changed significantly here in Michigan and Wisconsin, and the normal seasons that we experience are really changing and shifting, and the storms are getting more intense. The heat is coming. Like sometimes there's rain when there shouldn't be rain, and then there's no rain when there should be. It's all new territory that we're exploring, and I think that there's going to take a lot of innovation and adjustment as we move forward into this new air age. Really, there's been a lot of themes from the air age coming up, and the air age, if you're not familiar, is something I'm referring to the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, which generally happens once every 20 years or so. But this was special in late 2020 when Jupiter and Saturn came together in the early degrees of Aquarius. And that was one of the first times that those two planets had come together in an air sign in over 250 years. Now, there was a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Libra in the early 80s, so that was one caveat. But this is signaling a shift towards those Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in air signs now for the next 200 plus years. And ancient astrologers would sort of think about that as the prevailing energy for humanity and philosophical challenges that they were dealing with. So we're coming out of an earth age and into an air age. And it's just, I don't know if it's ironic, but it's just really interesting to see that after we had that conjunction, we're dealing with global pandemic challenges through the air. We are dealing with air quality challenges with forest fires and smoke and things of that nature. We're dealing with issues like artificial intelligence, which we're uploading our consciousness into a cloud, so to speak, literally the cloud, the digital cloud. So these are all things that we're going to have to be unpacking as we move forward. And there is so many different levels of time that we're going through. And there's so many different macrocosmic and microcosmic levels of time that it's challenging to see the big picture, even in the course of one human life, right? And how things might be changing around that period of time. So it's just interesting times for sure. And I think keeping an open mind about things while releasing attachment to how things have always been is super, super important. We're not going to be able to solve the problems of today with yesterday's successes or failures. I think that's super, super important to keep in mind. What worked yesterday might not work today. And that's okay. We just need to be flexible and adaptable. So this is part of this Uranus and Taurus 3 energy, finding innovative solutions to deal with our forces of nature and to deal with being good stewards, like Robert was talking about. How do we practice good stewardship? What changes do we need to make to be able to manage the shifts that we have been going through as a global community? Dawn says, those different lenses are why I love this group. I am definitely a responsible libertarian. Okay. I love helping, but want people to stand up for themselves and for those who can't. Okay, Dawn. Yeah. I mean, that's a valid perspective for sure. It's a combination, isn't it? About being able to do what you can in your own backyard and take responsibility for what you can and cannot control, while simultaneously acknowledging that we are part of a global, national, citywide, neighborhood, family set of communities. And this was the point that Sophie Strand was making in her book, The Flowering Wand, is that human beings have mycelial connections with one another, metaphorically. We are not alone in a vacuum. We need each other. We need to cooperate with each other. We need to help each other. If you think that you're going to just be able to go off into your bunker in Montana and avoid the changes that are coming because you're personally responsible, that's not going to work. And I'm telling you that from experience, because I tried to do that basically a few years ago. For those of you who aren't familiar, Tanya and I tried to purchase a 5-acre farm in the mid 2010s, right? 2015 or so. And with this distinct idea that we were like, we're going to go off the grid. We're going to get away from this. We're going to get out of this system completely. We don't agree with this and we want out. And 2 weeks away from closing on that place, which was really, it was nice. We found a failed water report in the house, which was full of junk. And the well was polluted with like VOC chemicals from just a big toxic waste dump upstream. 250 there. Oh man, it was so many. It was like 2,500, and not exaggerating. This, we found the reports from the Superfund site. 2,500 55-gallon barrels of toxic VOC chemicals, and they were just buried in someone's farm upstream. And that moment was a watershed moment for me that said, you know what? No matter where I go, we are all in this together. And just like the forest fires that are happening 1,000 miles away will have the effect on the air that I breathe today, you know. And I've really started to come to terms with this when there were forest fires in California, and they were affecting the water or the air quality in our area, even as, you know, at last year when this was going on. So I think that one of the things that we really have to keep in mind, Dawn, and everyone, is that we need each other and we need to support one another. And nobody is going to be able to do this alone. And that's okay. And we need to maintain our individuality and our ability to feel like we have some personal sovereignty. But I will also suggest that there are going to have to be some sacrifices that are made as well. We can't always just have everything we want while also being able to have compassion for without our actions affecting other people. That's the thing that I've wanted to really hammer home on this channel, is that our actions don't just affect ourselves, they affect other people. And other people deserve to have just the same amount of freedom and clean air and water and all of these things that we do. Okay, so again, like you said, Dawn, this is why this group is nice, because we can have conversations with maybe even differing political viewpoints and hopefully keep it to a constructive and productive conversation. Sun Dancer says Sun at natal Venus 20 degrees conjunct Sun at Leo 23 degrees. I feel on top of the freaking world today. Well, Sun Dancer, I'm glad that you're having a good day. It's always nice to celebrate the moments in the sun, right? Or when Venus is like just shining its spotlight on you. So welcome, and your enthusiasm, I hope, will be contagious for the rest of us. Don says, I have moles here and squirrels and armadillos. So yep, I feel you. But I plant 1 million flowers and have 8 acres, so I don't feel it as much. Well, that's nice. It's good to be able to utilize part of your property there to help other creatures. I think that the thing that I'm going to keep talking about, this book, Flowering Wand, I encourage you, if you weren't in our group, I really encourage you to pick that book up, because it was so life affirming and had so many great ideas about how we can change our mindset that will hopefully lead to bigger practical changes in our communities. And she talks about, like, you know, in the past, because of some of the slight inefficiencies in our farming methods, and I can't remember if this was in the book or in another article, but the point stands, is that we're harvesting like all of the like grain or something like that, whereas before we would leave a certain percentage for the animals, for the deer, for the other animals that needed to eat. And recognizing that we're neighbors with not only other human beings, but with non-human things, trees, animals, underground things, and trying to just appreciate that it's not all about us all the time. She uses some grad school words in that book, which I've had to look up, which I appreciate. She's a great writer and a wonderful poet. The Anthropocene, I believe that's how you pronounce it, but talking about the age that is acknowledging that human beings have an effect on the world, on the climate, and that we have an enormous impact on other species and things of that nature. And when we recognize that, then that gives us a lot of responsibility. It's like Spider-Man, when with great power comes great responsibility. And one idea that I wanted to share that I thought was really good for this full moon and for the challenges of Uranus in Taurus, she has a chapter that speaks on Tolkien, and specifically Tom Bombadil. And Tom Bombadil, she equates to sort of a spirit of sort of a nature spirit, the genus Loci, the spirit of a place, an ancient force that predates humanity on some level. And she talks about Tolkien had built into his book eucatastrophes, the good catastrophe, the moment where everything looks bleak and something good comes out of the blue, like the rescue of the eagles for Frodo and Sam on Mount Doom is an example of a eucatastrophe. Now, she makes the point that there may not always be a eucatastrophe for every species and things of that nature. Like we're seeing mass extinction events right now, massive reductions in the number of bird species, animal species, insect species. It is a real problem right now. But she talks about what can we do? You can create small eucatastrophes for things in your environment. And this is what I was encouraging you to do, Dawn, with your 8 acres. And you're doing this. You're planting hopefully native species, and you could be the eucatastrophe for the bees. You could be the eucatastrophe for, like she gave the example of stopping to take a possum that had been hit that looks pregnant on the side of the road and take those babies to the wildlife rehabilitator. That is an example of a eucatastrophe. We're doing these small little actions that become a moment of salvation for non-human species. And I think the more of those that we can do, more of those little moments that we can contribute, I think we will see that will add up, and I don't know what to do beyond that at this point. Josh said, I came across an article about Chris Cornell yesterday talking about his passion for Pink Floyd's Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Oh, that's a good album. I really miss Chris Cornell. I love his voice. I love his energy, his perspective. He just seemed like a very sensitive soul who, I don't know, I'm sad. I miss him. It sounded like the world was a little bit overwhelming for him, and maybe I don't know if his death was an accident or not, but I miss him, and I'm mourning for his loss. But he did give us quite a legacy of music and a collection of timeless things that are going to be passed down through generations. So we will have that to honor him by. Lisa says that song was perfect for that deck. And I agree, Lisa. It just was really resonating with me. And again, I want to try to accurately reflect my lived reality and our lived reality. And I think that was the vibe of the moment, and still is on some level. Rachel says, very ominous sky that you had, Spencer. Yeah. There was another song that I posted on my Instagram stories by Jeff Buckley, for those of you who are familiar with his work. It's called The Sky is the Landfill. And go listen to that tune. And that reflects the energy of the moment as well. I think Jeff was also someone who was courageous enough to speak up about some of the challenges that he saw in his world as well. And I think we need to start doing that. We need to, I know it's exhausting. I know that we're not going to be able to sustain the intensity every single day in the same amount, but we do have to keep this conversation going. Okay. And you're going to hear about this from me on this channel. So if this topic isn't for you, that's okay. You don't have to be here. I mean, there's plenty of other people that have their head in the sand. But if you want to keep having the conversation open, this is a good place for that type of supportive, I think, work that we're doing together. I don't have all the answers, friends, but I definitely think we don't want to ignore the challenges that we're going through. Sundancer says, I just got here, not sure what we're talking about. All I heard was 23 out of bounds. We were talking about Mercury and the moon being out of bounds at this full moon. Sundancer, just reference. I know that was a few minutes ago, but Lisa says, Mars square Uranus to my Leo moon. Tree trimmers cut a branch that fell on the electrical wires and cut my electricity out. Oh gosh. Yeah, there's all sorts of little things like that happen with Mars square Uranus, like little challenges, unexpected separations. Literally, Mars represents severing and separations. So yeah, I'm curious to hear your Mars Uranus stories, because that's an aspect that can really just knock us upside the head. Like I said, mine was the air quality changing here and my feelings around it. And I tried to stay as chill as I could, and I tried to use a little bit of levity the next day, but we all have to meet each other where we're at in the moment. Rachel says, we're even having unusual temperatures over here in Ireland and the UK. We're all experiencing this, and there's no denying the impact. Absolutely, Rachel. I think our ideas about what the earth and environment are have to fundamentally shift. Our attitude that they are simply a resource and that we are separate to the planet, we are such a part of it, an integral part of it. Yes, Rachel, that's exactly it. It's exactly it, Rachel. It's not a playground or a ATM machine. It's an organism, and we are part of it. We are part of this organism, and it's not whether we quote unquote save the earth. It's, are we going to keep the earth a habitable, healthy place for us and other creatures to live in? That's it. That's really, do we want to survive as a species, and do we want the other species that we care about to survive? Those are the questions that we really need to think about. And we're not separate. We are part of it. We're hurting ourselves. Okay, so this is the thing. I'm a part of you and you're a part of me, right? Don says, indeed, you cannot go off on your own. We are all interwoven all around the world. Just like the mess in the Ukraine, people don't want to be involved in it, but it will affect our food resources too. Amen, Don. That's the thing. Like, we talked about this in class. We talked about privilege in class. And there's all sorts of different privileges. There's privilege based on economic status. There's privilege based on race. There's privilege based on what I like to call peace privilege. In America, I think we've had a long stretch of peace privilege where wars are normally something that's fought somewhere else, right? And we need to come to terms with the fact that when other people are suffering, it affects all the systems. They're all interconnected. Like Dawn is talking about here. Yeah, because Ukraine is an enormous producer of grain. So the grain supplies are going to be like extremely, in dire shape if we continue to allow those conflicts to go on and just stick our head in the sand. Now, the other point I was making about this, and I think this is really important, we are so overwhelmed by the number of challenges and crises in the world right now as individuals, specifically because of the fact that we have access to so much more information than we've had in the past. So usually we would have one crisis or a couple crises we are dealing with as a community, and they will be intermittent, right? Now we can see every crisis that's happening in real time at every place. And it can really cause burnout. It can cause us to want to just escape. And I totally understand that impulse, and I've been guilty of that at various times in the past. But what I'm going to encourage you to do, again, it's about pacing yourself. It's about not ignoring the challenges that we see. But if you do need to take a break every once in a while, no one is going to, get on your case for taking time for your own mental health. But then re-engage. Keep the conversation going. Take the break that you need and re-engage, because these problems aren't going anywhere. I had this conversation with my dad, he's a kind person, but he's in the baby boomer generation, and he's the definition of like the average American man. He's a little bit more sensitive than the average guy, but when it comes down to it, he sort of has this energy of I'm just chilling out. He's a Taurus rising, and it takes a lot for him to get worked up about anything. And his response was, it'll blow over with the smoke. Like it'll be gone in a day. And I was like, it's not going to do that. It's going to be here, and it's going to keep coming back. And this is part of our new reality that we're going to have to deal with. And the frustration I was feeling with that is something where everyone's going to have to come to terms with this in their own time too. I've been guilty of the past of like really berating some people in my family for my beliefs, and that doesn't really work either. Call people in rather than calling them out, while not ignoring that there's a challenge. Let's see. Don says, we also believe we need to be responsible and decrease population too. I mean, that is one of the challenges of our time period, is the Earth. How much population can the Earth sustain? I don't have a good answer to that. I do know that taking away things like abortion rights is probably not the way to deal with that problem. And also, I'm pretty frustrated. Again, I don't want to get in too deep into the political waters, but America's making some really head-scratching changes as far as taking the Supreme Court ruling on things like affirmative action and taking that away. Dealing with, there was also a ruling made today surrounding being able to discriminate against gay couples and things like that based on what people perceive as their First Amendment rights. Just seems like some backsliding, in my personal opinion, about how we treat people and equality, and it's really frustrating. I'm frustrated with that today too. So again, I'm doing my best to keep my center with Mars hanging out near my ascendant today, but I'm getting pretty fed up with a lot of things right now, to be 100% honest with you. Let's see. Don says, I do everything for critters, the green witch in the woods, as it were. Good, Don. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. We need more green warriors, I guess. People that are thinking about how the non-human is going to be affected by these actions. Sundancer says, heal yourself, heal the world, Mother Teresa. I think that's a good start. I think heal yourself and then advocate for those who are in a system that may not have as much of a voice as you, would be the next stage of that. Beth says, oh my God, I'm just shocked I skipped this book club. But Beth, I know this book was made for you. You'd have been in heaven in this book club, but don't skip the next one. Sign up for our tarot one and we'll see you the next time. What age did Chris die? Rachel says. He was like 53. How old? I can pull him up for a second here, just to see for sure. I think he was in his mid 50s, Rachel. And let me make sure I understand here. We don't have a timed birth chart for Chris Cornell, unfortunately, but we do. This is why I was able to use his Jupiter, because Jupiter's not going to move a whole lot. So 1964. So he died, 2 years ago? Something like that. So he was probably in his mid 50s. So help me out with the math here, friends. But yeah. Okay. Does Painted Turtle says, does a 6-time peak hour electric bill count as Mars Uranus? Yeah, that probably could be a shock for sure. Yeah, that peak electric thing is it's challenging. They're doing that around here too. I get it on some level, as far as trying to reduce electricity use is part of the way that we approach this problem, but I think it is negatively affecting a lot of people that may not be able to afford it as well. Jiva Maya says, peace, privilege. So true. Yes, it is huge. Something to acknowledge that we really take for granted in America in particular. We've never really had a war on our soil in many of our lifetimes, and that's not something to take for granted. Tarja T is here from the south of Finland. How you doing, friend? Nice to see you. Okay, the Riva Chist 2790 is here. It says, hi, I get 6 planets, stellium with Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune in Capricorn, and a Mars Sagittarius in Sagittarius. It is a moon perfection year for me. Could this full moon in Capricorn be impactful for me? Yes, it will be. And I'll talk about, stick around for the rising sign part of this. Sorry, friends, I got to turn the AC on here. It's just, I'm burning up on the second floor. There might be a little bit of noise, but so it goes. Yeah, stick around for the rising sign portion and I'll break it down in more depth. Yeah, and in a moon perfection year, definitely pay attention to full and new moons, and especially eclipses, because those are the things that you're going to see activated in your chart, or in just in general. We feel transits a lot more powerfully when we have a certain planet activated as our time lord of the year. And this, this is a longer conversation, but each year a particular house in your chart is activated by profection, which means to advance. So you can advance your entire chart a certain number of rotations. And then, like, for example, I'm in a 7th house perfection year, and my 7th house is Aquarius. So Saturn rules Aquarius and will be my time lord for the year. At my birthday, it'll shift to Pisces in the 8th house, and then Jupiter will take over as my time lord. So you can find that in your own chart as well. Dawn says, I wholeheartedly believe Pachamama will survive. She may shake us right on off, but I do believe mushrooms will fix the planet when and if they are all gone. Or when and if we are gone? Yeah, I think you're right, Dawn. I think that I've always felt this way, that the earth has its own consciousness, and it's not about saving the earth. It's about how are we going to respect the earth enough so that it doesn't wipe us off its face. That's really that's the blunt reality of it, okay? Because if we keep treating it the way that we're treating, or treating ourselves the way we're treating it and ourselves, which, because we are one, we won't survive. And the planet will survive, and then maybe life will erupt again in some new form. But life as we know it is under threat right now. I mean, and that's real. And yes, I definitely am a firm believer in the power of mushrooms and mycelium. And there's you would love this book, The Flowering Wand, Dawn, because there's a lot of talk about the healing power of mushrooms to help clean up pollution and things of that nature, and even shift consciousness and things like that. Oh, Josh says Chris was 52 and died in 2017. Thank you. It's too young. It's too young. He still had a lot of music left in him, I think. Got a lot of people dealing with the energy usage challenges. Carolyn says, regarding your dad, there are people of all generations who are in total denial, in all caps, about what's going on. Some of the greatest activists are of the baby boomer generation. Yes, you're right, Carolyn. There are people of every generation that are in total denial. I've had friends that are much younger than me that just completely are oblivious to what's going on and continue to live as if nothing is wrong. And that is very, very frustrating to me. And you're right, not every person of a one particular generation are at fault for all of this, or are the enemy or anything like that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to point fingers. We're at a point now where that doesn't even help anything. What helps something is acknowledging the problem and then figuring out what the solutions are. You can point fingers until the cows come home. And that's something when we were talking about earlier with the forest management things. Yeah, we can point fingers as to why it happened, but working towards a solution is really where we should be at. I love all these comments. My goodness, you all are on, I knock on wood, you all are on fire today. We're all on fire. It's the worst joke ever. But you have a lot of amazing thoughts. Raven says, my partner and I were discussing nuclear energy and how humans have been acting like we can endlessly consume and control the earth instead of living in a symbiotic relationship with the earth. Yes, Raven. And that group the group discussions we've been having have been so enlightening. And just the fact that you're having that conversation outside of the group with your family is huge. That you're spreading that I guess you could even call it just a gospel. I don't know, that's not really the right word, but just having the conversation with people in your lives, whether they are aware of it or not, is important. And being able to have those conversations with our families is a great place to start, because hopefully there's enough unconditional love between you to be able to have difficult conversations if people aren't necessarily facing some of these truths. Jiva Maya says, bad news burnout is real, so is media over-focusing on and making some events or wars more trendy to support. Many from untrendy conflicts get their hearts broken manyfold by lack of support. That's a great point, Jivan. That we saw that play out. We saw that play out with two rivaling stories in the news recently from the Sun Neptune square, where we had a submarine full of billionaires, 5 billionaires to be specific, or 5 people that were wealthy, that drowned on the Titanic sub, or the whatever that Ryan Seacrest sub. Sorry, I'm just thinking about, he's the new host of Wheel of Fortune. It's not what it's called, Ocean Crest, or whatever it is. Sorry, I don't mean to make light of this, but the fact that there was such a spotlight on that, and then simultaneously there was a large group of immigrants on a Greek cruiser that also sank, then there was very little resources and attention paid to that. So yes, like what we focus on is definitely, it can be controlled by who is reporting on it. Something we talked about in our group class is, how do we discern the biases that we have in our media consumption? There's a site that I would guide you all to called, I believe it's called allmedia.com. And it shows you, there's charts that show you the media biases of your sources, and it gives you specific news stories from multiple perspectives, which I think is really valuable. Just as we look through multiple lenses to talk about astrology and the history of it, we can also do that with our news, so that we can start to see what the reality of the situation is outside of the biases that it's delivered to us from. And that's super important, especially as we move forward with trying to figure out what is real and what isn't as we go forward in this, Neptune and Pisces era, or whatever it is that's creating some of the fuzzy filters. Wow. Let's see. Dawn says, I try to listen to headlines only and not the videos, and then I follow up with clearing the air and doing something to feel good. Just do what you can and when you can and where you can. Yeah, Dawn, that's a great idea. I also follow not just the bad news, quote unquote, but I have like an app called, it's like the Good News Network. Like it's okay to focus on some good things happening in our world too. We need that to continue to have hope and to focus our attention on the things that we want to create. And yes, I think that it's super important to acknowledge and be grateful for those things also. Raven says, we think we are above the earth and animals, thanks patriarchal Christian messaging. We are not. We need to live in harmony with the earth, and she will provide if we take care of her. I agree, Raven. And that we really went into depth with that in our group study. And there was also, I will say, I agree with you with the negative parts of patriarchal historical Christianity, but I want to also say that Sophie Strand does offer an alternative take on Christianity that was very life-affirming and embodying, with I believe it was remind me of the Gospels that were rediscovered in 1945. There were the new Gospels of Thomas that were discovered that showed a Jesus that was much more embodied, much more earthy. He was connected to the earth, much like Dionysus. And the argument that Sophie Strand makes in that book is that we've become, here's this fancy grad school word, deracinated, which is uprooted from our history, from our stories, from our communities. We've become isolated and uprooted. Think about, we've all become these potted plants, right? And there's so much information that gets exchanged in roots and mycelial networks. And we have lost touch with the ability to compost our heroes, our deities back to the earth. One of the things that's fascinating about Dionysus in particular is that Dionysus was dismembered and returned to the earth. He was composted, whereas Jesus in those Gospels was lifted up to the sky. He was never composted. Do you see what I'm saying? He was deracinated. And this book offers a new perspective on how do we get back in touch with letting go without being so disconnected, and realizing that we are a part of this ecosystem rather than this separate thing. So I think there's a way to acknowledge mystical religious traditions, whether it's Christianity or otherwise, that heal the earth and that are connected to it, rather than just living for the next life. That is something that I rail against with every part of my being, is that we're here to live for the next life. I think that that's so false. And that's gotten us to this point where if we're only living for the next life, we're not living. You know what I'm saying? So I agree. Let's see. Thank you, Michelle, for your super sticker. Thank you for your generosity. I appreciate you. Dawn says it at Raven, it seems most people around the world feel this way. It's not just a Christian viewpoint. It's tragically sad. I agree, Dawn. It's not, and I don't want to just, exactly, we don't want to demonize Christianity or anything like that. I think every form of religion and worship is valid here and welcome here. I just want to say that even within our spiritual traditions, sometimes there are toxic narratives that are being perpetuated that need to be adjusted and need to be changed. It doesn't mean we have to throw out the entire thing altogether, but we do have to acknowledge that some of these viewpoints have gotten us into this pickle. Oh my goodness, so many nice comments. Michelle is here. Hello, Michelle. And again, thank you for the super sticker. You're having a moon perfection year, Jennifer. Okay, yes. So pay attention to new and full moons. Michelle is also in a 7th house year too, in Cancer. So you're having a lunar year too, Michelle. We've got the Riva, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, friend, but it says Libra rising. I felt the Aries eclipse on my 7th. On that day, I got an internship. Oh, congratulations. Looking for the book on Amazon, says Dawn. Yeah, Dawn, pick up that book. You would love it. Okay, really good, Dawn. And then the Riva Kissed 2790 says, I got Jupiter and Chiron in Cancer, and the last few months have been going really fast. Feels for career stuff. Well, I'm glad that there are some successful things coming for you, friend. Jennifer says it was called Titan. Yeah, that was the submarine that sank, Titan. Michelle says it's not just media bias, it's our culture that has been conditioned that people that have wealth have more value than other people that don't. Ooh, say that louder for the people in the back, Michelle. Okay, I'm going to say that again. I'm going to repeat that because it's such a good comment. It's not just the media bias, it's our culture that has been conditioned that people that have wealth have more value than other people that don't. Hallelujah to that, right? How do we start valuing people, not based on their bank account, but just as human beings? And how do we start valuing animals that don't have bank accounts equally, right? Dawn says, as an animal activist, I've seen the slaughter of dogs and cats to create fur for cheap products, sharks murdered tortuously for their fins to make soup, and it goes on and on. It breaks my heart. I hear you, Dawn. Well, don't lose that sensitivity. Feel that grief, but without getting overwhelmed by it. And then we should all be okay to feel that grief. That's another thing that Sophie Strand talks about, is kind of this ecological grief that we're going through, and how it's necessary to feel that to truly make changes. Raven says, oh yes, my parents are very much in climate denial, but Sophie's book has helped me give me the tools to talk to them in a way that is less abrasive and focused on more on solutions. Yes, Raven, this is why we read, right? So we can have more language to have those important discussions, more ways to reach people where they're at. And this is a reason to keep studying astrology and different forms of divination, so that you can have more ways to deliver your message in ways that people can receive it. So I'm so happy to hear that, Raven. And one day at a time, one mind at a time. And again, it requires us to be open and hear where they're coming from too, right? Not just getting mad at them, just saying, why do you feel that way? What is important to you? Where does that perspective come from? And listening as well as offering. This is how we co-create narratives. And I think it's really important. Rachel says, let's see. I was thinking as well, seeking out good news, of which there is much, and we need to be active creators of the good in our immediate communities. Yes, yes, yes. The Riva Chist 2790 says, yes, but the cults of Dionysus did commit human sacrifice. Again, we don't have to completely renew the cults of Dionysus to learn something from them. I think that spiritual practice, or I don't even know. I'm not a cult of Dionysus expert, so I can't speak on this with complete authority. But I do think that whatever was fruiting was for that time and space, and we can still take some of what is timeless from that and let go of what proved to be ignorant, like human sacrifice, and be able to utilize some of the timeless solutions for the challenges that we have now without having to renew the things that have proven to be barbaric. Rachel says, that's a really excellent way to feel rooted too. Community gardens are fantastic, or getting out and discovering the healing of nature with others. Yes, I love it. I love it. Amy Swombo is here. Hello, friend. The biggest lie ever sold is that we humans are separate from nature, and this message has come through many sources. I feel like the flowering wand is a great call to remember that we are that too. Yes, friend. Yes, say it louder for the people in the back. I love this. What a intelligent and heartfelt community we have here, with such compassion for other people. You are rocking it today. And this gives me hope for humanity, that all of you are out there and that your voice is being spread far and wide. Just hang on to that. Hang on to that hope. Hang on to that perspective that you are part of this world and not separate from it. And have patience for those who have been, blinded by being in a really tough spot. I would say this too. Try to have sympathy for those that may not be on board with that, because the system itself forces us into that type of thinking. And a lot of it is through trauma and abuse. And if you see those folks as maybe just experiencing some PTSD, and that will help you to have compassion for them as you try to spread those messages of unity and community and compassion. So many good comments. I read a book by the Revocritchus 2790 says, I read a book by Rene Girard, who wrote about the similarities between Christ and Dionysus. It's called See Satan Fall Like Lightning. See Satan Fall Like Lightning. Check it out. It's a good book. I will. I think that's a good, I love the connections. And just to be clear, Sophie Strand is not saying that Jesus was Dionysus. She's just saying that some of the similar energy and themes have popped up from the underground mycelial timelessness in different forms. And Dionysus being one form, Jesus being another form, Merlin being another form. There are all sorts of forms that they have popped up in various different stories and narratives. And there will be new characters and figures that will pop up that will speak to the needs of our society today, not just what was done in the past. Okay, my goodness, you all are so awesome. Okay, I'm gonna keep going with the full moon. I would love to just read every single comment that comes in there. Keep them coming, but I'm gonna keep rolling here. I think that everything that I'm hearing in the chat, I'm on board with, as far as like respecting the earth and creating community and staying hopeful, while also staying open to and being flexible to making changes that need to be made. So I applaud all of you for that and for being able to have that difficult conversation. And if you are someone who is standing up for the rights of the non-human, the humans that have maybe been oppressed, or the trees or the earth itself, you deserve some credit for those actions right now. And just keep on going. And don't do it just for the applause. Do it just because it's the right thing to do. Even if you're not getting the applause, keep doing it. Okay, like that's sometimes our egos can get involved, and we're like, oh, look at what we did. It is important to share the good news and the good word, or whatever it is that's happening in your community. But always keep in mind why you're doing it. It is it's a gift. That catastrophe they're talking about is about service. It's about alleviating the suffering of something or someone else. That's why we're doing this. Okay, so this is our full moon. We've gone on such a digression with this, but it's so important. We're living this in real time, and the astrology reflects this. Okay, so this full moon Mercury is just coming off a Cazimi. Okay, it is separating from the Cazimi moment that happens on July the 1st, which is tomorrow, as I'm recording this on June 30th. So we'll have a new download of information, and Mercury will start separating. We will have Mercury emerging from under the beams of the sun as the evening star. When does that happen? That is on the 14th of July, okay, at 6 degrees of Leo. So a lot of the messages and downloads that you may receive this weekend, you're going to start to see physical manifestations of that roughly a few weeks after. So keep that in mind and pay attention to what happens when you're experiencing the delivery that Mercury has for you. Now, the moon is also going to be co-present with Pluto in this lunation. So we've been talking about really Platonic themes here today. Keep in mind that this is the culmination of the new moon in Gemini 3. So that new moon was encouraging us to make a choice and to make a decision, potentially letting one imagined pathway go to breathe life into our highest priorities. Now, we have the moon here co-present with Pluto, which is dredging up a lot of these systemic challenges, the corruption in the system itself. I want to make clear that when I was, expressing my frustration online during the middle of the week, it's not necessarily about just the individual apathy, although I think that contributes. It's much more about the system itself, and we are individuals within a system. But I think that there's, with climate change, I was getting so frustrated because I was trying to find the turnaround. I was trying to find the eucatastrophes that we could do, and all of it seemed inadequate and lacking in urgency. Because to be honest with you, there needs to be changes on a big, like on government levels, on corporate levels, because these are folks that are some of the biggest polluters and challenge and things of that nature. So I think as individuals, we need to put pressure on those systems and continue to put pressure on those systems and demand that they make changes, whether it's through general strikes, whether it's through voting, whether it's through writing your politicians, whether it's through doing a radical act of removing your lawn and putting wildflowers or natural pollinators in your lawn, because there's still people that just get really irritated about that. It's like they want to hold on to the old systems of really lawns are just a show of wealth and power. There's lawns. The root of a lawn is that it's basically like telling your neighbors, I have so much money in abundance that I don't have to grow food on any of this space. And when we realize that that's rooted in this kind of, colonial thinking, it can help us release the need to have this perfectly manicured lawn that's pumped full of chemicals to keep away quote unquote weeds. I think if there's one thing you can do today, if you still use things like glyphosate and Roundup on your yard, cancel that shit right now. Like, that's an act that you can do right now that's going to contribute to helping the planet. Because it's poisoning everything. It's poisoning you, it's poisoning the bees, it's poisoning the flowers, it's poisoning the animals. It's no good, okay? So how do we continue to take those small actions while also realizing that there are going to be bigger scale changes that we have to make as well? Okay, so that's part of the Pluto conversation in the third decan of Capricorn, is some of the corruption of the system being revealed. Let me check in on the chat here. Again, you all have so many great comments, and I like I said, I would love to read every single one of them, but we got to keep the thing moving here. If we receive Cazimi messages, Rachel says, do they tend to be very exact at the time of the conjunction, or does it apply to the entire day or even the day before or after when still under the beams? That's a great question, Rachel. I don't think any of these aspects happens in a vacuum. I think we can feel the buildup to them in weeks in advance. You could probably start to feel the Cazimi energy as Mercury starts to apply within 3 degrees, I think. There is a Hellenistic technique about applications. Cholasis, I think is the technical term for it, where a planet is becoming aware of another planet more intensely within that 3-degree range. Now, cazimi itself has many different definitions, or at least two. One is within 1 degree of a planet. Okay, when a planet is within 1 degree either side, that's the Hellenistic definition. And then the medieval definition would be within 17 minutes, okay, which is a much smaller period of time. But I would say just pay attention to a few days before and after to be able to see what is going on in your life, look at it from as a big picture. So I hope that's helpful. And yeah, you all are doing a great job talking to one another and trying to work out some of the challenges of having differing belief systems, having different opinions about things. Again, all you have to do is just have grace for one another, and to I think when we talk about this stuff, the best part is to keep it we don't want to try to take a lot of it less personally, right? When we are thinking about it idealistically, we have to have a certain level of detachment when we discuss, but also honoring each other's lived experience too, right? I think you're all doing a good job of that in the chat. I'll just say that today. Painted Turtle says, native thinking. What I do now affects the next 7 generations. I am 7th generation to my ancestors. Thought of me specifically. Yeah. Yes. Okay. I love that thinking. What you're doing today, this is something that I get frustrated with my family. I don't see that as much with my parents. My parents frustratingly have done a lot of things that just seem like they're just living out their days and they're just gonna do whatever brings them the most pleasure in that moment, and that frustrates me. Now my grandparents, on the other hand, my great-grandfather was a professor at the University of Purdue. He taught conservation and was one of the people that was at like these conferences at Switzerland talking about conservation, and he was a steward of the Indiana State Parks. And he got a Lifetime Achievement Award from Al Gore at the White House for conservation. He was starting this work in the 40s. So that to me were some actions from some people in my family that took in those next 7 generations. And I really am proud of that work that he did. And it casts quite a shadow as far as something to live up to. But it's inspiring to me. And he lived to be 96 years old. His name's Howard Michaud. Look him up if you want to. And he was married to his wife, Ruth, for 70 years. And she lived to be 106 and was a 4th grade teacher and did a lot of good in the world too. So there was a sort of a macrocosm and a microcosm in their relationship about the good that they were doing in the world. And I think both were equally valid. And they were amazing people. And I spent a lot of time with them actually as they were aging. I had the opportunity to get to know them as an adult, which was rare because they lived so long, and just really, they were good folks. So look to those stories and the people that you have that are those types of examples of passing on that wisdom that will live beyond you, or be that for yourself if you don't have that in your life. It's okay. You can shift the lineage. You can always make a choice towards moving away from generational trauma and starting that healing on your own. That to me, Don, is the personal responsibility part, is how do we heal our own mindset when it comes to things, right? How do we heal our own perspectives on things? That's our personal responsibility. Yeah, let's get rid of the lawns, everyone's saying. It is. Seeing personal gardens is an act of rebellion today. I live in a town that is pretty funky, Ypsilanti, Michigan. It's very liberal. It's very welcoming to people of all, stations in life. And my neighborhood in particular here around Normal Park is just filled with pollinator habitats. You see more and more cardboard going in to kill more grass and plant more native pollinators. It's just really inspiring. And we're in the process of doing that ourselves. So I love to see it. And I hope that mindset starts to continue to spread. Jennifer just cut her lawn to keep the bugs down. Well, one day at a time, right? One day at a time. Okay. Isn't it interesting, Rachel says, that conservation is so important to what will be in the future? Very important perspective on time. Yeah, that's a great point, Rachel. And I think that the thing about all that is that a human life is actually very short in the grand scheme of things, in the life of the planet, in the life of a sequoia tree. This is a blip, in the life of a galaxy, in the life of a star, in the life of a universe. So we just have to start thinking more long-term like that, because really the actions of our ancestors brought us here for better and for worse. And we will have that effect on the people that come after us. And if you start to think about yourself as part of the earth and the soil, Sophie Strand says, soul is the soil. And I love that. Oh my God, she's just such a great writer, so powerful. We will become the soil that future trees will bloom out of, flowers that will feed the bees, that will become the food, that will become our ancestors. So we will become them in the future. So it's not just about, are you going to pass on for the future generations? Are you going to pass it on for whatever future form that you become? And I think that that's something really to consider. It's not just about, it's not this separate thing. It's you. It's you. It's me. It's we. Let's see. Yeah, Michelle, so cool that you had such a conscious grandfather. I had one side of my family was really intelligent and conscious, and going even further back on that line, I have Mennonite ancestry. So they were Mennonites that came to America in the late 1700s. So they were some of the only people that could read and write. And I have letters from the early 1800s from them that were actually very, very accepting of different types of belief systems. It was really interesting to see. So, they were leaders in their church and things like that. And I'm not a practicing Mennonite or anything like that, but I just find it interesting that was passed on to generations, and that mindset of openness and coming from a place of love is something I'd like to continue on with that lineage. I also will say too, I have another side of my family that were shameless capitalists that started companies and that did some really unethical things along the way. And having both of those perspectives and the choice of which type of lineage that I want to lead and leave behind is important to me to I don't know if getting it right is the right term, but to make the choice based on what resonates with me. So I've seen what it looks like from the other side too, when you have people that are living a little bit more selfishly without the future in mind. And I didn't like it. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like how it hurt people. I didn't like how selfish it seemed to me. So that's why I make the choices that I make and speak how I speak about these issues and these challenges, because I've seen both ends of the spectrum on that regard. Okay, let's keep rolling. So a couple other things. I know we've gone on like mega tangent day, but the host of this full moon is Saturn. And Saturn is going to be retrograde, it is retrograde as we talk about this. It's in the first decan of Pisces. And it's causing us to, I think it's this, the imagery of Saturn retrograde right now is so perfect. And the fact that we were reading Sophie Strand's book during this, where with my Time Lord being Saturn retrograde and Pisces 1, it fits so perfectly. Because Pisces 1 is all about the mythic mycelium that we shape our lives around. The connections, the connective tissue of this in-between spaces that are of our belief systems that actually create our reality. Think about it as like the Matrix on some level, or Indra's net or something like that. And as Saturn started retrograde, Sophie Strand started challenging some of my unconscious beliefs and causing me to reevaluate even more and more levels of this, and causing me to say, what are the new narratives that we're going to write? What are the new stories? What are the new models of not just masculinity? I think that if you read the description of that book, you might be like, oh, it's a feminist manifesto or something like that. And it is that on some level, but it is so much more than that, is so much more than that, that you have to get past the part about just masculinity in general. But it does offer new stories that we can tell about being men, or about what it means to be masculine, or being a yang force. But it's also about how can we live in a society that appreciates holisticness. Okay, like that's really, I think, the underlying message is unity. Okay, not just uplifting one other duality over the other. Does that make sense? Like, let's say you put, if you took an extreme and you're like, oh well, now we need to have a woman queen or king or something like that, and put a woman on the throne of the patriarchy, right? Then you're just using the same tools of oppression, but just putting a different face on it. Does that make sense of what I'm trying to say here? You can't use, there's a phrase that they use, like, you can't use the master's tools to liberate the oppressed, or something like that. I don't know, I'm misquoting that, I know, but that's the gist of it. It has to be a whole new thing that we're dealing with. Raven says, I hope Saturn and Pisces can teach us how to conserve water and sea life. Saturn being time and limits. Yes, Raven, that's something we haven't talked about enough on this channel. The oceans are in trouble right now. They're raising in temperature. They are becoming filled with plastic. There's mass species extinction happening in the oceans right now. And we're so dependent on those ocean currents to cool this planet. You know, if the planet changes even 1 degree, like, that creates catastrophic changes for not just our own species, but for other species. So that's going to be another thing to be able to become sober, like the Saturnian sober reality is, how do we protect that sea life and everything in it, and see that it's connected to us, even if we don't live near the ocean, right? The Ravokchis says, people forget how radical colonial America was. It was unthinkable for a Dutchman to marry a French woman and be the neighbor of a German. Yeah, I mean, this country has so much history. Yes. I don't even know how to begin to unpack American history, and how, yes, it was very radical. Like, a lot of the people that left Europe were trying to have a freedom of living, of worship. Some of them also were the most radical people in the negative sense too. So there was positive liberal radicals that came to America from Europe, and there was also super conservative radicals that came here, and we're living with all of it mashed up together, trying to figure it out. It's really interesting. Rachel says, I've become increasingly drawn to advocating for green burial options. It's something I can make an impact on for future generations, and also aligns with my Saturnine nature. Yes. So green burial being like being able to let your body return to the earth and feed a tree or something like that. Yeah, I'm down with that. Like, the whole like formaldehyde, like, let's preserve this body and just like remove it. I'm not into that. When my mom passed, she was cremated, and I think that was a good choice on her part, and that will allow her to become one, I think, with the earth once again. And I think she would have loved that, because she loved gardening and nature, and really inspired by her choices. Don says, I would like to be cremated and turned into a reef. There you go. Okay, we have these choices now, don't we? Painted Turtle says, Cancer Ascendant here. I'm just here for moral support, and Saturn hit my 8th, and now it's in yours, Spencer. You're so up in your lineage's vibrational business right now. That's definitely how it goes. Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to continue on what I saw as a good example. I mean, my family wasn't perfect. I'm sure that they participated, consciously or not, in some challenging circumstances also. So I'm not just like going to hold them up as like this paragon of virtue, but I do think that they were trying. And I think that they, for their time period, I think we're very progressive. And that's something that I would like to continue on in this channel and in life. Yes, we're hopefully we're doing the lineage proud today. So keep that in mind, that this full moon may bring you in contact with reevaluating the stories that your beliefs and the mythologies and the narratives that you're crafting your entire reality around. I think that was the biggest takeaway from the book that we all shared as a group, is that change is going to happen when we take action, but it will also happen when we change just literally our belief systems, because that's the foundation of changing an action that you're taking. It's sometimes it starts with a belief. If the beliefs aren't in alignment with the action, it's going to be much more difficult to create success. So when we reevaluate just where these beliefs came from, what we assume as our reality, and a lot of it has come from colonialism, okay, and late stage capitalism. So if we question those two things that have brought us an enormous amount of wealth, but also brought us to the brink of extinction, then we will be able to shift to a different narrative, hopefully, okay? And a hopeful one, a hopeful one. I think it still is possible. I just think that it's going to take some really difficult conversations and some difficult reality checks along the way. And it starts by first acknowledging that there's a problem. Like, I'm just laughing with, like, I just sometimes can't believe that people can be so obtuse. Like, they literally can see it now. Like before, like for example, with the pandemic, people could rationalize it away because they couldn't see it, even though there were hundreds of thousands of people dying, you know, and millions of people around the world that died. Now there's literally visual evidence of it in the air, and people still want to rationalize it away. And it is so frustrating for me. So the first thing that you can do to start shifting this is just sit with it, acknowledge it. You can grieve for it. You don't have to stay in the grief. You can move towards solutions, but just acknowledging that it's a real thing is the first good step, you know. Jennifer says, we're trying to decide what values and beliefs we want to take into the future, and it's going to be chaos. Maybe, Jennifer. I think it's going to be, there are some painful chickens coming home to roost. And I think what we're deciding now, honestly, my friend, is that we're going to be in for some difficult times. But how difficult is still up for change right now. Are we going to live in a complete dystopian hellscape? Or are we going to make the adjustments necessary so that it's slightly more inhabitable than it would be otherwise? And I hate to say it like that, but that is what we're facing as a community right now. There's still going to be good. There's still going to be things to look forward to. But again, the sense of urgency needs to start to really be picked up. It's hard for me to just continue on with every single daily thing when there's this. The time is, climate change is here. It's here. It's not something that's off in the future. We're living it right fucking now. So it's time to get off our hands and start to really do what we can every day to work on it. Okay. The other thing that is the good news about this, the good news, I always look for benefic contacts with the moon. And we do have a whole sign trine from Jupiter. So even though we're having difficult conversations, we're talking about how to build the structures of society today with the full moon in Capricorn II. We do have Jupiter in the first decan of Taurus, helping us to make plans. Okay, this is something where we're going to need to plan and take care. Michelle, thank you for the super sticker today, and I hope that you're going to have a great day. We're trying to decide how do we plan for the future? How do we plan for future abundance? How do we plan for sustainability moving forward? The first aspect that this full moon is going to make is a square to Jupiter, and even though it's a square, I always tend to look at the first aspect that the moon makes after escaping the bond, which is escaping 15 degrees on either side of a conjunction or an opposition to the sun, as kind of how we're going to be managing the energy. If it's a hard aspect to a malefic planet, we might have a more difficult full moon. But if it's a hard aspect to a benefic, it may turn out a little bit better. There may be some grace involved with this. So if you are feeling like, oh my goodness, there's changes that need to be made, it's time to plan. Like my priorities have shifted. My priorities, there's certain things that have gone up the list, like having a backup power source for my home, like looking into whether we can solarize and use solar electricity for the home has gone up the priority list. Air purifiers have gone up the list. The pollinator habitat is up the list. Just being prepared to be able to survive during some of these challenging times, and not only on an individual level, but starting to build community in my neighborhood, like talking to neighbors, say, what do we do when this happens? How do we support each other? What do you need? Not just what do I need, but what do you need? Like, how can I be of service to my neighbors as we go further into this? Those are good questions to start to ask. Okay. Artemis loves the Martian. That's an awesome name. Hi, Spencer. Just arrived from Scotland. Good to be here. Well, welcome, Artemis, goddess of the moon. That is an awesome name. And I hope that you're enjoying the broadcast today. Okay. Let's see. So, just to summarize, Jupiter is going to be making a positive aspect to the lunation. Saturn is the host, making a positive sextile. We're going to be coming off of not only a Mars-Uranus square, but specifically a Venus-Uranus square shortly after this. We have Mercury co-present with the sun and Pluto co-present with the moon. All right. So that being said, let me show you something. Let's talk a little bit more about Capricorn in general. I'm going to show you my decans of Capricorn. The Cancer one is on sale, but I want to focus on this because that's where the moon is. So this is Capricorn II. This is the decan that is syncretized with the Three of Pentacles. Book T calls it the Lord of Material Works. The Book of Thoth calls it the Lord of Works. Austin Coppock calls it the Pyramid in his book, 36 Faces. And there's a spirit in this decan called Hygeia, which is sort of I believe this was the daughter of Asclepius. So there's a decan about taking care of our body. It's a Mars-ruled decan. We are working very hard on a material reality. So think about Mars and its exaltation in Capricorn. So planning, long-range planning for the future is very important, I think, with the moon activating this decan. Now, again, the moon isn't comfortable here. This is not necessarily the fertile ground of like the moon in Taurus. This is the rough, rocky terrain of a mountainside where we have to take, painful, slow measures to get where we're going. And the soil might not be as supportive for the types of, lunar significations that we would normally associate with that planet. So themes of this decan: architectural designs and blueprints. Here we see in the Three of Pentacles, we have both the artisan, we have the clergy, and we have the government agent here, all discussing, how to build together. And this is sort of what we've been doing here today. We've been talking about artists that reflected this with Chris Cornell and Jeff Buckley. We've talked a little bit about political structures, and we've talked about spirituality. And all of those are going to have to be part of the solution of how to build a society that will work for more people rather than just for a select few. Although it's not going to work for them anymore. There's a reason why the billionaires are like, let's go to Mars because we've destroyed this planet. They know, they get it. They don't care, but they get it. But I digress. How would the Enuma, Anu, and Neely writers have viewed the fire skies? Can't imagine the omen would have been positive. Oh, is that the Gilgamesh epic? I don't know. I'm not as familiar with that document, but yeah, you're right. Wouldn't be good. Wouldn't be good. I mean, people got freaked out when at eclipses when something was swallowing the sun. I can't imagine what they would imagine seeing smoke, encapsulate everything. These are images of like purgatory and I don't know, Dante's Inferno or something like that. So, and whatever applicable fruiting body or mycelial body that would come from that document that you were describing. So architectural designs and blueprints, ambitious projects and daunting tasks. This is a decade where we might sometimes overshoot the mark. So I would be careful this weekend in particular, especially with your body. I'm planning on doing some more digging to plant some more plants this weekend. I know I'm gonna have to be really careful with my body, especially if the wildfire smoke is still around. Like, my partner spent all day at, she manages a farmer's market. She spent all day outside in 200 plus AQI air, which is air quality index, which is code purple, really, really unhealthy. And she had her mask on. She had a coworker that ended up not wearing a mask all day and called in sick today because they were feeling really crappy. And so you're gonna have to know your limits, and you're gonna have to protect yourself from this moving forward too, especially with the moon out of balance at this full moon. Try not to overly push your body. It's easy to want to do life the way that we've always done it, even in the face of ecological crisis. But part of the humility in front of nature, which is required of us with Uranus and Taurus, is knowing when to make adjustments to what is or is not possible in that moment. I mean, just because the wildfire skies are crazy today, maybe it'll blow over. We can do some of those projects later. But in the moment, you need to make the proper adjustments. And that's going to be important moving forward. Josh says the Enuma Enlil was an astrological text from Mesopotamia learned about in class. Nice. Okay. I believe I have a book on Mesopotamian astrology that I have not had a chance to engage with yet. So I'll have to check that out. Artemis says, thank you. I have Venus and Mars in my first house of Cancer, hence the name. I'm not a fan of Elon. I can't imagine how much Mars will be ruined by human pressure. Oh, yeah. I am. Our presence, yeah. Don't get me started on Elon Musk. I'm very much not a fan of him. And I'm not a fan of taking humanity to Mars. I think we need to take care of this planet rather than just going and commodifying and destroying another one. So that's how I feel about that. So gathering resources, support to manifest. So this is a good decan to take stock of all the things that you have available to you, all the resources, whether it's physical, whether it's communal, whether it's spiritually, whether it's, your time, all of those things. It's a good time to take stock so you can plan for the future. Bina and Asya. So this is the Sephira, the Kabbalistic tree of life Sephira, the energetic sphere. Limitation, castrating possibilities into form. So Bina is the Saturn-ruled Sephira, and we have Asya as like the physical form, earthy type of experience, right? So we are making things real in this decan. Okay. Proper maintenance of the body and mental health. That can be related to having hygeia related to this. To be able to do an ambitious project, you need to take care of your body. To be able to continue to go and do your job, you need to be able to breathe. Maybe to be able to breathe in my area, you need to wear a mask, right? Or you're going to pass out. So I just think that it's proper maintenance of body and health are going to be themes that are coming up with this too. And with Pluto being there, that's showing us that the limitations from the corruption that may have been coming into the story as well. The assembly line and means of production, that's another theme of this. Like what is our process to get things done? And is it effective, or should it be reevaluated? So things you can ask yourself about the moon here, which again is in its exile, not a comfortable place for the moon. What resources do you need to build? And what do you want to build? And is what you're building in service of the greater good or in service of yourself? Okay. How can you gather support for your vision? Is this plan in service of the self or the collective? Is this project practical or hubristic? This is something I've had to learn even with what I consider a project for the common good, my pollinator habitat. My vision for what I was going to be able to achieve this year was very grandiose. And I'm learning that, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to like tone that vision down a little bit and expand it over time and extend what is possible over many seasons rather than just one. And I think that that's something to consider. Do you need to slow down during this full moon, right? And have more of a long range vision? Are you trying to build a Tower of Babel? So this reflects some of our talks earlier, where there are certain stories in the Bible about building a structure to be able to reach heaven. And I wrote this slide before reading Sophie Strand's book. So in the moment, I'm sort of reevaluating that question at all. The main point of it is that the version of that is that you can't really build a spiritual presence through material means. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that now. I don't know if it's, I do think that it's more about, are you building a tower of detachment? Or are you connecting with the roots and the earth? What is the foundation and structures? What is under the ground that's supporting all of the things that you do? That's a better question to ask at this point, I think, if I were to reframe that on some level. How can you take care of your body while you toil? So there may be some hard work going on here in this full moon. And it's, again, important to take care of the physical vehicle that you have and see it as part of this other greater, structure of the world and of humanity and your ecosystem. Painted Turtle says, breathing. This is why we embrace even overtaking amounts of poison ivy in our yard and around the woods. Humans enjoy the fresh air, but stay out and let us do our thing, says the poison ivy. Okay. Yeah, I mean, poison ivy has a right to live too. I mean, just like the groundhog has a right to live. We're all neighbors. So how do we become, poison ivy actually is a symbol of what's going on in your landscape too. Ivy in particular is really actually restorative to landscapes that are really suffering. So yeah, we want to be respectful of it like we are other parts of nature, but at the same time, like there's a greater meaning to that ivy being there. Everything has its purpose, even mosquitoes. Oh God, I've opened a can of worms there, haven't I? Okay, so this is going to be in opposition to the Three of Cups solar energy, where we're trying to figure out like how are we going to celebrate our achievements? How are we going to celebrate each other and our family and domestic relationships while trying to figure out how all of that fits in the greater vision that we're trying to build together. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to just stretch for a minute. I would like to take this opportunity before we go into taking the full moon through the houses, which I'll do for the last hour here. Please do me a huge favor. Please like this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I love all the new faces that we've been seeing and love the new participation we have. All viewpoints and experiences are welcome here as long as they are kind, as long as you refrain from personally attacking someone else's viewpoint, then you're welcome here. Kindness is the kind of the thread that goes through all of this, and that's how we create a safe space to be able to express differing points of view, is assuming positive intent from one another, while also being open to listening, okay, and hearing one another, right? I've been doing this new stretch where I like move my shoulders like this. Oof. Yeah, we gotta move our body. We gotta become embodied. We don't want to just, try to escape from our bodies. We need to be present. The present is a gift. It is the presence or the present. If you want to support the work I'm doing here today, there's a little $sign in the chat. It's called a super chat or super sticker. I so much appreciate those donations that you've been contributing here to the work that I'm doing here today. Also, Our next book club is starting, Guided Group Study, Summer 2023. We're going to be doing The Secrets of the Waite-Smith Tarot by Marcus Katz and Tally Goodwin. Registration is open for that. Please join us. It's so much fun. We have, we get to talk to each other more face to face. It's a little bit more personal than just the chat on YouTube, although we cover a lot of amazing ground here with the chat on YouTube, but it's just a little bit of a different vibe, being able to see each other's faces, and we create a different level of intimacy that is really powerful when we can see those stories, and we learn astrology, we learn tarot, we talk, mythology, stories, how things are going in the world. We cover a lot of ground in those talks, and I'd be so grateful if you'd join us. I really enjoy doing that work and teaching and facilitating all these intelligent conversations. I just think of myself as a channel, and I'll guide things here and I'll open up channels here. And it's our groups are only as good as the participants. And I hope that you'll be a part of it. Lend us your voice. Okay. Raven is stuck in the car and stretching with your heart. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Oh man, I can't travel the way that I used to. The idea of being in the car for like any more than like 3 hours, I don't know if I can do it. But sometimes we just have to take it one little step of the journey at a time if we want to see some incredible places, right? Or connect with family or things like that. Rachel says, Spencer, I was inspired to take a Spencer-style stretch break this morning while doing deep cleaning of my upstairs. It felt so good. I'm stretching my hips right now. Oh, that's the part that I get really hung up on. I have this wonderful chair that I've talked to all of you about. It's called a Sprong chair, S-P-R-A-N-G. And it's like half medicine ball, half like real chair. And you can move on it, see? So I'm moving my hips, stretching them out, getting a little bit of protein in my body so I can keep going. It's really important that we take care of our vehicles. Our brains are going to work a lot better if we put good stuff in them, stretch them out, use them, move them around. We don't want to get stuck in our ideas, and we don't want to get stuck in our bodies and get all like Tin Man, like, like that's part of that. We need to get oiled up. All right. Okay. So I promised I would take it through the houses for you, and that's what I shall do. So let's bring back the chart. Actually, this is another little feature of Astro Gold, is you can take things through like they call it like sun sign charts, but what it really is like each chart with like the different rising signs. So what I'm gonna do, whoops, let's see how I can zoom in here. Thank you for bearing with me. And we'll start, as we are apt to do, with the sign of Aries. Someday I'll just do it backwards, but not today. So Aries rising. Let's take a look here. Sorry, I'm just trying to find all my there you go. Okay, so Aries rising, this is one of our angular full moons, okay? One thing that I talk about on this channel is that we my plan is grooving with me. Good. Yeah, I've got the air conditioning on here because it's it's almost 85 degrees out right now. When we have a rising sign or a moon or a lunation that is in either house 1, 7, or 4 and 10, that axis, right? That's said to be angular. Okay, these are the angular houses, 1, 10, 7, and 4. So in this case, we are trying to balance out our energy as Aries rising of our 4th house of our domestic experience and our 10th house of the way that we show up for the public, right? So there may be some challenges where we may have planted the seed of trying to create community within our family, but there may be some things that we need to do out in the world that are maybe either pulling us away from that, or we have to work a little bit harder to figure that kind of thing out. We are getting information from the 12th house, the liminal space of the 12th house from Saturn, okay? And we may be reevaluating kind of how we, as Aries risings, how you find solitude. What are the things that may be holding you back as far as like your own belief systems that are deeply buried in your subconscious? How do you take time and space to be yourself? Right? What is your role out in the world? How can you build together with people out in the world, but also find the balance between doing things out in the world and being present for your domestic situation as well? Okay. You might also get a little bit of help from Jupiter in your 2nd house, so it's good to plan for your future and for being able to expand your resources more moving forward. I guess the other thing I will say is, like, when we're looking at all these, it's just important to look at where your ascendant's ruling planet is also, and what you might be focusing on. So with Aries rising, Mars has just gone through the square to Uranus. Maybe there was a shakeup with your kids or your creative projects where you had an unexpected expense or something of that nature, and you're trying to figure out which of these hills is worth defending and which one you just need to let go, you know? And this is really a lot of the vibe of Leo 3, is the 7 of Wands with someone just standing on a hill defending their territory, and Mars is really firing us up about certain things that are important to us. Like, here's an example. This past week, I've been really, really vocal about my passion for the environment and for trying to create change in the way that we view our place within the earth, and the urgency that we need to have around dealing with the challenges of climate change. That's a hill that I'm willing to die on. You know, that's a hill that I'm willing to defend. That's a belief system that I'm willing to maybe even take some negative feedback around to talk about. And it takes courage, it takes bravery. So Aries rising, you may have to figure out what is really important to you that is worth defending, okay? And that is worth, saying, no, this is my boundary. This is important to me. I need to engage with this. I need to use my will towards this particular issue. And that issue is going to be different for everyone. Some people may be really feeling the Supreme Court's ruling on affirmative action and them taking away, the ability for people to be treated fairly and equally under the law, as far as not being discriminated against, where we saw a ruling today that basically enables discrimination based on someone's religious beliefs. And so that might be your Mars energy. Okay, there might be some other thing that gets you really fired up. So Aries rising, just think about what your passion is right now and what you're willing to defend and go to battle around. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have some physical altercation or argument or whatnot. When you are using your courage in service of others, then the universe really likes to support that. That doesn't mean that you can't take your own needs into account. That's important too, but we're always more powerful when we're taking on a crusade that is not only about us. We want to take our own needs into account, but it has to fit into the greater ecosystem, right? Okay. Mosquitoes. People are defending mosquitoes. They're habitat protectors too. And they're food. They're food for all sorts of different animals. Like, if the mosquito population just dried up and went away, there would be animals that would just literally starve to death and go extinct. So yes, this is what we learn in third grade biology class. All these ecosystems are connected. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, jewel weed's a good one. Okay, Taurus rising. Keep on rolling here. So Taurus rising, you have the full moon happening over the 3rd and 9th house axis. And so all of these full moons are really about trying to deal with maybe even a contradiction, being pulled in 2 different directions. You know, oppositions are of the nature of Saturn. So there may be like something where you're feeling blocked, or you're feeling like pulled in 2 different directions, or you might feel isolated or exiled or something of that nature. And this could be around your belief systems, Taurus rising. Maybe you're needing to take a long distance journey. It's putting a lot of pressure on your daily habits, on your daily routines. Maybe there is an orthodox system that you're a part of where there's some corruption that's being exposed, with Pluto retrograding back into your 9th house and the moon hitting it. The 3rd house is really, it was said to be the joy of the moon, where the 9th was the joy of the sun. We often associate in traditional astrology the 9th house not only with things like pilgrimages and journeys, long distance journeys that have a spiritual purpose, but also things like higher education, orthodox religions. Whereas the 3rd house is more about the intuitive understanding. It's the joy of the moon. It's the information that arises from within, but also in response to stimuli. I wanted to make this distinction too. There was a really provocative chapter in the Flowering Wand about the High Priestess, and about that being related to the moon, and about intuition. And oftentimes tarot text talks about trusting your gut when you pull the High Priestess, knowing something, but you don't know where it's coming from. It's not part of this like established hierarchical system. It arises from within. I will make the argument that that is true, but also that, you know, there was this discussion about how intuition is not just, you're not just pulling it out of the air. Your intuition is a response to your environmental stimuli. Okay, so as a Cancer sun, and Mercury, this is very true for me. I know quote unquote know things intuitively because I'm very much tuned in to the things that aren't being said, like someone's body language. I'm tuned into the way someone's moving or walking. I'm tuned into the tone of someone's voice. And all of those things lead to having something like intuition. So it's all about being present to your external stimuli, and then trusting what those signals are giving you. Okay, like a crab is a prey animal, and they have to be very sensitive to their environment so that they don't become food for someone else. So their senses are very heightened. And I would encourage all of you people that have Cancerian placements to trust your senses, because those are defense mechanisms as well, without being overly defensive about it, right? While taking a risk every once in a while too. I'm talking to myself in that regard. Yeah, and people are saying bats eat thousands of mosquitoes. Yes, we want bats. There's little cute flying furry babies. You know, they need mosquitoes. So everything has its place. Okay. Raven says, Taurus rising, I am literally on a long distance journey. There you go, Raven. Astrology, it works. Yeah, I'm curious, Raven, too, like with this long distance journey and with Saturn being retrograde, are you visiting an old friend or something like that? Or like an old community, something that is a blast from the past? I would say also with Taurus rising, Venus is ruling your ascendant, and Venus is in the 4th house. So there may be a return home, or like something where you're trying to figure out which belief systems you're willing to defend within your family, things like that. So if that's what you're going through, Raven, hang in there, because I know those conversations can be challenging. One day at a time. Painted Turtle says, I lived in a town once where they sprayed the entire city for mosquitoes. Oh my God, it's nightmarish. They came around in a truck with a horn sounding to get inside and didn't even have a choice not to get poisoned. Ooh, that is some dystopian bullshit right there, Painted Turtle. I hope that isn't still happening, but if it is, that is worth sounding the alarm bell around, because that is super, super bad for not only the humans, but all the other things around. Like, shouldn't have to be sprayed with toxic chemicals in your communities, although it's happening more than we would choose to admit. But you do have a choice of whether you spray that garbage on your lawn, you know, like Roundup and bug killer. There's so many alternatives that will alleviate some of the challenges of that, while not like completely destroying the microbiomes in your space and in your body and in your backyard and in your neighborhoods and in your cities. So there's so many different ways to deal with any of these challenges. Yeah. Bugs are important. Bugs are super important. We become so deracinated, I love that word, from nature, that we just see these things as these other alien life forms. And I actually, you know what was cool? I saw some lightning bugs in my yard this week, and I hadn't seen any in a long time. I mean, obviously because it was, you know, they weren't in season, but I haven't seen them in my yard for a couple of years. And when I planted new native pollinator wildflowers, they've attracted more lightning bugs, which is super, super cool and really exciting. One landed on me while I was watering, and that was just kind of a message from Gaia being like, hey, you know, this is working. This is a little tiny eucatastrophe where you are becoming an oasis. This space is becoming an oasis. These actions are the good catastrophe that turns something around at just in that moment for that creature, in a time that is pretty dark. And that was literally a light in the dark. Is all the symbolism is really, it's powerful. Okay, so Taurus rising, 9th house, long distance journeys, disruptive to potentially to your daily habits and routines. You may be visiting old friends. You may also be having conversations with your family and figuring out which belief systems are a reflection of your authenticity. It's going to be coming off the square to Uranus too. So there could be some experiences that you have on this journey that are way outside the norm. Some of them may be fun. Some of them may be like, oh my God, what are we doing? I would guess I don't know, maybe I would wait to get like a tattoo or something if you're a Taurus rising, because it may be, I don't know, something strange that you wake up after this aspect's over and you're like, what was I thinking? Okay, Gemini rising. So Gemini rising has the sun in the 2nd house and the moon in the 8th house. We've got Saturn here in the 10th, and we have Mercury co-present with the sun. Okay, so you got the opposition over the 2nd house of like personal resources, things that support you individually, versus the resources of a partner, or like things that happen, legacies that happen after death or completion. We are drawing upon energy from Saturn in your 10th house, Gemini rising, where you're maybe reevaluating a lot of the narratives that you have about your role in society and with your job or your career, or the things that people know you as or know you for. Mercury is your ruling planet of your ascendant, and that's just gone through a Kazemi moment in your 2nd house. So you may have some really important information or ideas or downloads about how to support yourself. And that's probably good news, because, you know, Saturn's running through your 10th house, challenging you to get real about how you present yourself out into the world. Try to have a healthy balance between your own desire for personal support and resources and money, and how you work together with others in cooperative efforts to make money and to do things in that regard as well, because that will get you through some of these challenging times. Jennifer says, yeah, Dawn's confirming that in the process, the mosquito killers are killing butterflies and other babies for sure. So yes, the collateral damage is something we don't think about a lot, especially with like weed killer and all of that stuff. You're not just killing weeds, you're killing all sorts of beneficial insects. Here's the thing about beneficial insects. This is why people are so adamant about pollinators and not using these toxic chemicals. Those pollinators, the bees and the butterflies, they literally are pollinating the vegetables that we eat, not just the flowers, the vegetables, the food that we eat. And if they're all gone, those vegetables don't get pollinated, and there's a food shortage and a food crisis. So you want to save not just the bees, it's save yourself. You want to eat, stop using those fucking chemicals, okay? Like, it's the worst thing you can do for this planet. You know better at this point. And if you don't know better, spraying that shit on your yard is super, super terrible, okay? And no one's going to blame you if you didn't know better in the past, but there's no reason to continue to do that. None. Absolutely zero. Okay? Get over it, people. There's so many different ways we can live. It doesn't have to be this same BS thing. Jennifer says, when I moved into my house in the mid-'80s, we had a pheasant and now they were gone, but now I have turkeys. Yeah, pheasants really felt a lot of environmental stress. I used to see those every once in a while. It's been a really long time since I've seen them. Although I will say they are notoriously reclusive. I saw a turkey the other day too. I went to pick up Tanya at her job, and I saw a turkey on my way there, which was super cool. Turkeys tend to represent sacrifice and the abundance and like kind of willingly sacrificing. And in that moment, I was getting really irritated about having to drive all the time. I was feeling a lot of compassion for my partner who works outside the home, and we're dealing with having one vehicle right now, which is that's more vehicles than a lot of people. So I'm grateful for it. It's a shakeup to my routine. And in the moment, I was getting very angry about the air pollution and angry about going to the wrong place to pick her up. And then I saw that turkey, and it was like a reminder. It's like, okay, you need to just keep doing a service, right? It's not really about you. You need to keep trying to help your family be functional. So it was a good message from the turkey. Raven is saying, in regards to the Taurus rising, yes, it was a trip to see all my siblings together for the first time in years. Also seeing how we may all be from the same family, but some of us have very different priorities in life. Yeah, amen there, Raven. So yes, the astrology in action. So thanks for those stories. Yeah, and if you have a story, if I'm doing one of your rising signs here and it's hitting on a lived experience, put it in the chat, because that's how we learn, right? That's how we are saying, oh yeah, this isn't just some, deracinated abstract thing. These are literally reflective of the events that we're living in our life. Painted Turtle says, dragonflies are such sensitive creatures. Spot one, Spence, and you've got a great ecosystem going. Oh, I will keep my eyes out. We saw a yellow dragonfly in the woods the other day. We have a woods that we walk to in our neighborhood all the time. And that was a cool experience. So I will keep my eyes peeled. Like, I'm excited about transforming our landscape. Like, I know if some of you have seen pictures, we have a lot of our backyard is actually a parking lot, because this was a multi-family home for a long period of time, and they just paved over a lot of it. And thinking about ways to maybe reclaim some of the space for growing food and flowers, and whether it's through containers or just busting up some of the pavement altogether and just removing it. I don't know, that might be a bigger project longer term, so we'll see. Don says, yes, sir, they make our food, and bees are on the verge of extinction. It's a scary situation. When they have to transport them in trucks, it's super scary. Yes, I agree, Don. This is why I said, like, for those of you who are feeling a sense of urgency, you should trust that feeling. We are not in like if we don't get our act together by 2050, we're screwed. No, we are in a world of hurt right now, a world of pain. Like we are Smokey, literally, on at the bowling alley with Walter Sobchak holding a piece to our heads right now, saying, if you mark that an 8, Smokey, you are entering a world of pain, right? From the Big Lebowski. We're already there, okay? Like, there's more urgency. If anybody is resonating with this today, just do one little thing today to help your local ecosystem. Maybe it's throwing out that Roundup, or finding a way to dispose of it in a responsible way. Maybe it's planting some new wildflowers. Maybe it's just going out and being present and appreciating that. Maybe it's helping a neighbor, something, whatever it is. just let this inspire you rather than let it be kind of a doomsday scenario. I mean, we still are at the brink of our choices still matter right now, okay? And every one of us can do something to contribute and alleviate the suffering of not only ourselves and humanity, but the creatures that we share this planet with. All right, so Gemini rising. I hope that will help you here. You're getting a little respite from Jupiter. From Jupiter here. I don't know what's happening with this thing here. I want that to go away. So Gemini risings probably need some rest right now too. With Jupiter in the 12th house, it's okay to just take a little vacation and to like get away from it all a little bit. I have a friend who's a Gemini rising, and they've been visiting a lot of ocean recently and talking about feeling unmoored. And we don't always have to be moored, quote unquote. The earth will always support us, even if it looks weird in the moment. All right. Painted Turtle says bees hum in the key of C, and the sound of the hive can help PTSD. We don't even know what we're giving up if we let them leave the earth. I agree. I saw that article about that, the resonance. I was sending that around to some people in my life who've experienced some trauma, and I agree. It's just, we don't even completely understand how connected we are to all this. So many good gardeners in here. So proud of all you for doing your part. Okay, Cancer rising, another angular rising sign. So this is over your 1st and 7th house axis. So you might be feeling you might be feeling empowered with the sun in the 1st house. But there also is an adjustment period that's happening with a partner. There may be some planning that needs to happen through a partnership that requires a team effort. There may be some things that pop up that are painful discussions, but they're important to have because Pluto brings things up to be dealt with and transmuted and transformed and healed ultimately, I think. So if you have those difficult conversations coming up, it's okay to have them. But remember to lead with positive intent. Saturn is challenging you at this full moon through the 9th house, challenging you to reevaluate your belief systems and the stories that you tell yourself about what is or is not possible in your life. Jupiter is providing a little bit of bonus goodness from the 11th house, so it's okay to rely on your friends. Maybe get together and plan with your community. That could alleviate some of this tension between the 1st and the 7th house. And the moon is the moon is your helm. It is the planet that's ruling your 1st house. So if you're feeling a little out of sorts this full moon, Cancer rising and Cancer suns actually too, it's temporary. It's temporary. That's the thing about the moon. It's very changeable. How you feel one day may not be the way that you feel the next. When I was going through the dark night of the soul, I would say, in the middle of the week, the moon was in Scorpio. I was feeling really scorpionic. I was feeling really sad. I was feeling a lot of grief. And it came out in that way. And then as the moon has moved into Sagittarius today, I'm starting to feel a little better. I'm starting to feel a little hopeful. Some of the smoke seems to be clearing a little bit, and I'm here with you today and trying to take a more positive expression rather than focusing on my grief. I felt my grief, I let it go, and now we move forward. Okay? And there will be other cycles of grief and then hope. And it's a cycle. So Cancer rising, those feelings are going to arise and they're going to pass away. And try not to get stuck in one of them. Don't hold on to the feelings. Feel the feelings and then release it, whether it's crying or whether it's through expressing something. You don't have to hang on to every single feeling that comes up. In fact, it's not healthy to do so. It's important to acknowledge it without repressing it. Okay, but let yourself be fluid during this full moon period. Okay. Also, there's let's see. Yeah, and Mercury maybe is out of bounds. So you may have some pretty wild ideas right now too, Cancer rising. Some things that are just completely outside the box type of thinking, especially as this Mercury went into its Cazimi phase on July 1st. Pay attention to that. Some of that may be able to move you out of a period that you felt stuck in. So trust your gut on that. And remember, your gut is not just out of nowhere. It's stimulus from your environment, okay? It's paying attention to the ideas that come from the other non-rational sensory information that your body is always processing. Okay. So let's move on. Leo rising. All right, Leo rising. Let's do this. So Leo rising, you've got the moon in the 6th and the sun in the 12th. So this is a 6th house, 12th house event. So Leo rising, your first house planet, the sun, is in the 12th right now. And you're probably feeling a little bit tired. I'm just speaking from experience, but I would like nothing more than a break and a rest. I found that as a Leo rising, taking an actual vacation where I have to think less and do less during 12th house transits is really healing and restorative. So the problem with this full moon is that there's a lot of things on your plate right now, Leo rising, that you probably have to take care of, that are things that aren't the most fun, but you kind of have to do it. Like I've been dealing with like some bureaucratic stuff with like my health insurance and taxes and all this stuff that's not fun, but I need to get it done. There's hard labor involved in doing the rest of our pollinator habitat planting. So I'm facing that as a Leo rising. There's maybe a lot of work before completion. Okay, so 6th house is a place before completion. So maybe there's a project that you've been working on and you just have to do the hard work before completion. And that may be a little bit awkward because, at least in America, the 4th of July weekend is one where people relax and barbecue and watch some fireworks. Although I'm really soured on fireworks, friends. They're so beautiful and magical, but they are so toxic for the environment. They're so, there's so much noise pollution to our bee and insect and animal friends. They can cause birds to leave the nest and abandon their babies. They cause our pet friends in our homes, cats and dogs, a lot of unnecessary stress and trauma. And on top of all of that, because of the dry conditions, setting off a bunch of fireworks right now could potentially lead to even more uncontrollable forest fires. So I would highly encourage you to just pass on the fireworks this year. Like there's other ways to celebrate America without setting everything on fire and annoying everybody else in the process. So Leo rising, you also are having an expansion of sorts in your 10th house. There's a lot of plans that might be put into place about how to expand your resources moving forward as in your career. Just for those and Don says it's horrific for veterans too. Absolutely. So another, group that is traumatized by firework events. So Leo rising, there is an opportunity to plan for the future. I've been going through this personally as a Leo rising, like just thinking of ways to expand what I do in my business, mostly to meet the expansion of my responsibilities. My life has changed in a lot of ways where I just need to kind of change the way I do things a little bit and meet the needs of my milieu or my family or whatever it is, the responsibilities I've taken on through home ownership and through other things and whatnot. So make plans if you're a Leo rising right now for the future. And it doesn't have to be implemented overnight, but one day at a time. And you've got to clear the garden right now, plow the field, get things ready, remove the rocks, Leo rising, that are holding you back. Those rocks may be being the negative beliefs of what you think is or is not possible. I've been doing that myself. I've been weeding the garden or removing the obstacles to greater expansion of consciousness and of of material prosperity too. I've been, just to give you guys a little hint, I've been really thinking about a larger offering, like a year-long offering, like a Deccan walk that I'm probably going to launch in the fall. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to get to a level of intimacy with the Decans that we have not yet approached. So excited about it, and keep me in the loop if there's other things that you're excited about or that you'd like for me to offer. I'm always open to suggestions to be able to be of service to this community. Oh, Janet's here. Janet Goodspeed and Dimphy. Hello, friends. Nice to see you. I'm catching up on some comments here. Dawn says, I try to set a time limit on feeling the bad. Like I'll look at the transit going on and set my limit and then get up and do some activity for it. Yes, you don't want to get fixated in it. Feel the feelings, but then move forward. I love it. Dimphy says, hi, Spencer and everyone. A bit late today, working late. Weeding, planting, and harvesting zucchini and flowers. Well, Dimphy, you're in alignment with what we're talking about today. We've been talking about all the ways we can connect and become embodied and protect the earth and contribute our little piece to the community of nature. So you're doing that work in real time. So I applaud you, friend. Janet's here. It says, damn it, I missed the Cancer rising. I watched the replay, of course. You were so close, Janet. I watched Janet have a nice talk with my friend CB Henriette on Instagram Live and talk about her good sigil business, her creation of her beautiful talismanic jewelry and bigger pieces and things like that. Ooh, yes, Janet, I want you to sign up for our Deccan Walk. I'm going to get this together. If enough people give me the go-ahead, I'm going to go forward with this. And I will warn you in advance, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than some of my other offerings because we're going to do it for an entire year, but it's probably going to be about the same monthly cost as my guided group studies. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. If you want to get on a waiting list, just send me like an email saying, I want to get put on the waiting list for the Deccan Walk, because again, that'll motivate me to really pull it all together. But Janet's awesome. Support her work, good sigil. Jan, I was just talking about Cancer rising and just the need to build with others and the projects that you're working on. You got some support from your community right now, and there may be some questioning of beliefs though with Saturn retrograding through your 9th house. Just to give you a little bit of a review, there may be trying to tell a new story and being able to feel our feelings in real time and let go of some of those old beliefs that we're hanging on to, and maybe of some of those old stuck emotions, maybe part of that story also. But Janet, we need to work together again. I really enjoyed our talk and really appreciate the work that you do, and thanks for stopping in today. I'm so glad that you're here, and let's do that Deccan Walk, friend. Here's just my vision. I'll just kind of put it out into the world a little bit. I have 12 months worth of Deccan webinars, like 12 signs that are 3 hours a piece. And I would build into the cost of the Deccan Walk everybody's ability to download all of them at once. And if you already have them, maybe I could change the price, okay? But so you'd engage with the Deccan material, and then we'd meet up at once every Deccan, have a discussion. We would be creating a shared narrative together through the sharing of our stories, through our shared experiences. We would go through all of the different tarot associations, mythological associations. I really want it to be, what I love about our group experiences is we're hearing stories from people experiencing this all over the world, and doing that and seeing what the focal point would be in our individual lives and individual rising signs would give us a really deep and in-depth understanding of those decans. So that's sort of my vision for this. And yes, there would be a monthly payment plan possible, Don, for sure, because I know that the price, it's going to be hard for people to maybe come up with that money all at once. So yes, monthly payment plans are for sure in the offering. So send me an email, spencermichaud@astrology@gmail.com if you're interested in that, and I will put you on a list. Yes, Janet, we're collabing. I just love Janet's energy. Janet's a Cancer rising Leo sun, and I'm a Cancer sun Leo rising. So we vibe, we got vibes. Artemis loves the Martian says, I've just recently got involved in our community garden What a difference my well-being in my well-being. It really calms the mind. We harvested strawberries, broad beans, onions, beetroot, and kohlrabi. Wow. Yes. Awesome, Artemis. That's awesome. So excited. That's a really awesome thing to get involved in. And that is so healing for not only for yourself and your own mental well-being, but for the planet. So that's awesome. Jennifer, what is a Deccan walk? A Deccan walk is an experience where we go through sharing our experiences, and through journaling, through learning, through exchange, the experience of the sun. It could be any planet, but I did one with the moon personally, but I want to do one with the sun, where we meet up once every 10 days or so to be able to discuss our experiences while the sun was moving through that 10-degree section of the zodiac. So what it'll do is it'll highlight a section of our lives and our experiences that we are focusing on collectively and personally, and will help us to really make those connections so that we learn more about what each individual 10-degree section may bring us as we circle through the wheel. Ooh, Callie's saying, well, incorporate Austin's book release. I was really hoping you'd do a class on 36 faces. Well, it could if it gets released. This is always the question with that book and the second edition, is it's been on the back burner, and a second edition has been coming for almost 5 years now. So I hope so, but I'm cautious about that because I don't know what Austin's situation is or when it's coming out, and I don't want to make a promise that it will be used if he hasn't released it yet. What I will say is that we can incorporate all of the information in my Deccan webinars. A lot of it is inspired by Austin's work, and I have the book, so I will be able to share some of that. Also, I utilized T. Susan Chang's book, 36 Secrets, which is available, and we could use that also as a reference guide as well. So I hope that 36 Faces will be out because it would be a great resource. But if it's not, we still have other resources that we could draw upon as well. The 36 Faces book is out of print, and finding copies will cost you literally thousands of dollars. I was just very, very fortunate that I got the book at the very end of its print run, very end. He found a box of them in his garage, and I got one of the books from the box in the garage. So, okay. So I hope that that helps you understand what we would be doing in that longer term. But he's a huge inspiration on my work, and I think he's brilliant, and there definitely would be drawing upon his some of the directions that he has been pointing us in for sure. Don says, Austin is still not near publication yet, as far as I understand. He said last month he still had a large chunk to go. Yeah, I mean, he's very meticulous about his work, and it's brilliant work. So however long it takes him, that's fine. You know what I mean? Everyone's got their own process, and we never know exactly what someone's going through in their personal lives either. So I think just having grace and patience for authors. And in the meantime, we have some other resources. I went pretty deep into the Decans in those webinars. That's a resource. T. Susan Chang's gone pretty deep into it. There's been other people that have been starting to talk about it more. So we have more voices that are starting to engage with this. Rachel, okay, nice. Rachel also has some good community garden. Callie says, really go with yours. Yeah, I am a lucky duck. Yes, I am. I try to share as much information from that book as I can, while also filtering it through my own lens, and respecting Austin's sovereignty with that information as well. I do think that much of the teaching that you hear on this channel, Austin's been a huge influence on my work. So I always want to acknowledge him and his presence in this work and in this channel. Rachel says, Cancer Rising resonated with me. Too tired to share my full story, but in short, have received amazing, unexpected benefits from friends. And adding that word in. Unexpected from friends in regard to supporting myself in a new way. Nice. Dawn says, writing a book is a huge undertaking, especially for that kind of detail. I agree. And again, he's brilliant, and I think it'll come when it comes. But what I'm saying is I'm not going to wait for that book to come out to offer that if that's what we do. But you can ask me any question about it, and I will try to do my best to be another channel for that type of information. And my webinars they're not just Austin's book. They incorporate that. They incorporate fixed stars. They incorporate tarot. T. Susan Chang's work was an influence. The mythological stories and the spirits and daimons that are associated with it are also a part of it. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. A lot of different lenses to look through. All right, let's talk Virgo rising. What do you say? Let me get a drink of water here. How are y'all doing? What time is it? Where are we? It's 4 o'clock. I'm gonna have to wrap it up pretty soon here, friends. But I'll finish out the rising signs for you. Virgo rising. So this is going to be a full moon in your 5th house and over the 11th and 5th house axis. So this could be something coming to fruition or having to balance out your personal creative expression with that of a group. There could be something coming to a head with a child or a creative project. You may have gotten some really new ideas about the types of people you want to surround yourself with, and now you have to build your own take or your own experience within that, potentially. You have a really interesting experience with the Mercury Cazimi because that's the ruler of your 1st house. So really pay attention this weekend to what downloads you get, Virgo rising, is that there could be some really interesting experiences coming up for starting a new group project. This would be a great time to sign up for Secrets of the Rider-Waite Tarot Guided Group Study Summer 2023. That might really be a beautiful experience for you, Virgo rising. You also have Saturn moving through your 7th house, and some reevaluations potentially with partners, and maybe even regards to either your own creativity, how you seek pleasure or entertainment, or your kids. There could be some tough conversations that you're having around your kids and the types of communities that you all are involved in as well. So that could be another factor within this. Getting a little bit of support from the 9th house. So making plans based on your belief systems, and maybe even making some travel plans might be supported around this period of time as well. Okay, that is Virgo rising. Rachel says, Spencer, love the idea to journey through the decades together throughout the year. Yay, I hope you'll join us, Rachel. It'd be awesome. Artemis says, yes, that's great. I live on top of a flat with no balcony. I have a bed too, where I'll be growing spinach, kale, and rocket. Nice. Is it a love class? Callie says. I don't know what that means, but sure. That sounds great. Yeah, there'll be plenty of love in it. Oh, live class? Yes, it is a live class. We will meet over Zoom once a decade for probably a couple hours. I always say that it's 90 minutes, but we always end up going about 3 hours. And you can pop in or leave whenever you need to. But we really get into depth in talking about that. And Janet says the webinars are so rich. Thank you, Janet. I put a lot of my heart and soul into those. It was quite a labor of love. But yes, the decans, we will have meetups regularly over Zoom, face-to-face Zoom, live classes with the group. But that you will also have the ability to, within the price of the class, you will receive all of my decan webinars. So that will sort of be some homework, is watch my webinars and then we'll talk about it. So if you don't have 36 faces, that's okay, because a lot of that information is still in it. But if you can find it, that's awesome. But again, there'll be other resources, like T. Susan Chang's book is great too. Rachel says, as always, so impressed with your stamina taking us through the moon today. Another stretch break must be due. Yeah, let's stretch after Virgo here. Okay, love class. It's gonna be a love class, Callie. Oh my God. Okay, So I hope Virgo rising, that gives you some insight. Maybe a chance to reevaluate some of the ways that you seek pleasure or entertainment that have to be reconciled with Pluto there also. Yeah, just, you know, go with the flow, right? You know, be flexible. Try not to overdo it. Try not to drive yourself too hard. Try not to work too hard. Virgo rising, I know you may have a problem with that, but take time to rest too. Take time to enjoy yourself, okay? All right, so let's take a little stretch break here before I get into Libra rising. So, as always, this is your opportunity to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to move my shoulders here. Okay, subscribe to the email list. I've been doing a lot more creative work on the email list. I've been doing a song of the week and showing musicians' charts and talking about some current events and things like that. It takes me a little bit longer to do the email now, so that's why they've been coming out a little bit later. But you can probably assume that if I'm doing a live stream, it's going to be Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Those are the days that I usually do it. I'd sometimes adjust the day just due to my own schedule and responsibilities, but Friday is usually what I shoot for. And if there's something that's come up, it's like if I was thinking about potentially going on a mini trip, and that's why I was thinking about doing it Thursday this week, but we canceled the trip and I just did it the normal day. I also was considering delaying until Saturday because I was feeling a little overwhelmed with some other things. But I did a tarot spread on it, and the card I got for doing it today was the 10 of Cups upright. Doing it tomorrow, I got the Devil reversed, and then I got like the King of Wands reversed for Sunday. So I was like, you know what? 10 of Cups looks good. Let's do it. Let's do it on Friday. And here we are. We've had a beautiful experience with all of you. So another just little ringing the bell. If you want to contribute to the work that I'm doing here, there's a little $ in the chat. It's called Super Chat or Super Sticker. It really does support the work that I do here and the time invested in facilitating these conversations and the preparation that goes into it. And I so appreciate all of the support that you've given me on here. And if you want to donate after the fact, you can either buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com, sign up for a reading, purchase the webinar, sign up for the guided group study class. That's another great way to support the channel and to build community. It's all good. And I just love your presence here too, as well. Okay. Pain Eternal says, Callie, a love class might need some Buckley performances. Oh boy. Oh jeez. Now you're really trying to draw out my Leo rising need for the spotlight. You know, I've been thinking a lot about music lately. I've been wanting to kind of re-engage with that part of myself. Really, it's kind of been dormant since really the beginning of the pandemic. The pandemic changed some things for me artistically, but I've been thinking about it. My guitar's just been sitting there for a long time, and I feel like there's some things that I need to say that maybe can only be expressed through music. I try to say a lot of the things that are on my mind here. One of the things I will say, just if you allow me a brief digression here again, is when I was doing my music, I was always trying to talk about some of the things that we talk about on this channel regularly. Oh, thank you, Dawn. I appreciate you. Thank you for the super sticker. I was feeling like I was being a little bit too cute with my music, and I wasn't able to directly say exactly what I wanted to say. And as an astrologer, now I'm able to say it a little bit directly with a language that I think reflects some of that philosophical leaning. But I do think it's a balance as far as expressing some of these things directly and indirectly through music, through like being able to, I don't know, sugarcoat the poison pill, I guess. And it doesn't even have to be a poison pill. It could be a beautiful, tasty idea, right? So maybe that will come. So I think if you poke me enough, I may be inspired to pick that guitar up and start writing again. But the music business, I just don't have a lot of patience for that. Like I was just, there came a point in time where I just felt sort of like, like one of those monkeys dancing with a organ grinder, and people just like walking by and not paying attention. This was really painful to just feel like you're just howling into the void. And that hasn't really been the case with astrology. This has really been such a beautiful experience. So thank you for your presence and your feedback and the interaction. It's just so cool to me that we're able to do this with people from all corners of the world. All right, Libra rising, let's do this. You ready? So Libra rising, another angular house. Okay. We are seeing this over the 10th and 4th house axis. There's a spotlight right now with the sun in your 10th house. There's a lot of focus on your career, but there's going to be some balancing energy with your home. There may be some things where you need to really talk about things with your family before you take some action out publicly in the world. There may be some corruption that's being exposed within your domestic space or literally even under the ground. Maybe you're working in your basement or something like that. That could be something like this. There's just a lot of hard work in your home that will also maybe even take away some energy from your career sometimes. Saturn is providing resources from the 6th house. So this might have you questioning how hard you work for, and are you receiving the credit that you are due, right? Like the 6th house is a place before completion. And oftentimes we need to work smarter rather than harder. And Saturn may be challenging you to examine how you grind through your day, and is it really the most effective method to bring things to completion? Your ruling planet for the 1st house is Venus, and that just went through a square to Uranus from the 11th to the 8th house. So there may be some sort of hills that you're trying to work out on whether you should defend that territory or not within the groups that you're a part of. And there may be some challenges around resources that you share with others, that some of that could be expressed through a group consciousness or a group experience, for sure. Painted Turtle, you're just flattering me today. Thank you. It says, I think you did phenomenal. I'd love to see what you do. It doesn't have to be Buckley-like, though you hit it out of the park. How did this world was so real? It does deserve worship. Oh boy. I appreciate that, Painted Turtle. That was I was at a Jeff Buckley tribute concert in like 2012 now. That recording, it was a while ago. I can't remember the date. But Jeff Buckley's mom was there, at least at one of these that I have on that channel. And I just feel his music was just so overwhelming emotionally that I don't know. I was just trying to do it justice and put my entire being into it. And he's a really powerful singer. I miss him. I miss his energy. I wish he had a longer time on this planet, but we get the time that we're allocated and we do with it what we can do. And I think he made the most of his short time, and it deserves to be honored in those tribute shows. And he really helped me to discover my own voice. I had to move forward from wanting to sing like Jeff Buckley to try to see what is my contribution, what is my voice. Same with astrology. Like, I'm inspired by Austin Coppock and Adam Ellenboss and Demetra George and Chris Brennan and Robert Schmidt, but what do I have to contribute to the conversation? And those are the things you ask yourself after you absorb people's influence. Then you figure out, when you take what you really resonates with you from each little part of someone else's teaching, and then it turns into your own personal expression eventually. I think we're doing that here on some level, I hope. Okay, so Libra rising, take your time with your public project. Acknowledge the fact that you're probably gonna have to do some stuff in the home and the family. Try not to burn yourself out with Saturn in your 6th house. and figure out what belief systems are important to you within the group and your expression, and which things you just need to let go. Okay? So let's talk about Scorpio rising. Pain internals. Scratch that musical itch. As an artist myself, I know if it's a calling, it's always a good thing to pick up the art again. It's still there, painted turtle. It's just a little dormant. A lot of my energy with that went into parenting too. Like my daughter is a artist and a guitarist, and I just sort of moved aside for her experience for a long period of time too. But now she's out of the house, and everyone's role gets to change and be reevaluated. So, we're constantly in motion and in process of growth and visiting and revisiting different parts of ourselves. Rachel says, I hope you find a place for your music in your life again. Perhaps your voice has changed and it's just taking time for it all to make sense and come together musically again. I hear that, Rachel, and I agree. The songs I would write now would be very different than the ones that I would written. I think the last series of songs that I wrote was in 2016. I think part of the reason I stepped away for a little bit is I was just getting so frustrated with the state of things that the music that was coming out of me was really dark, and I just didn't want to be that guy, And who knows? I have so much more material to draw upon now from who I was in 2016 and all the explorations from mythology and astrology, tarot, and metaphysics. If I could incorporate that into my work and through just nature, maybe there would be some really interesting stuff that could come along. So just keep encouraging me and we'll see what happens. All right, Scorpio rising. You have the full moon in your third house. The Saturn is providing resources from the fifth. You've got Mars as the ruler of your ascendant in Leo. So we have an opposition between the ninth and the third house. We're drawing upon Saturn in the fifth retrograde. And then Mars is the ascendant ruler. Okay. So third house full moon, there's a spotlight right now with the sun, Cazimi, Mercury Cazimi in the ninth house, new belief systems, new ideals, new ways of seeing the macrocosm. And there's probably going to be an expression of and a shift around how you arrange your daily life. There may be some ideas that are bubbling up that are coming from your intuitive interaction, your sensory interaction with the world. And some of that may be in conflict with your belief systems that you have taken on throughout your life. So I would say trust your intuition, trust your gut, trust the interaction between your body and the world and the ideas that come from that. Saturn is challenging you right now too to grow in your responsibility when it comes to how you seek pleasure in the world, how you interact with your children if you have them, or your own personal creativity. You could need to have a new narrative around all of those things. If you're struggling with any type of substance abuse, this could be an opportunity to reevaluate some of that as well. And sometimes I see that a lot with Scorpio risings or people with Scorpio placements, especially the third decan of Scorpio, is oftentimes to be able to deal with the loss and grief and pain that comes from Scorpio placements and the composting. There's a disassociative energy that can lead to addiction. Much of the Decanic story of Scorpio is feeling an attachment to a form that no longer provides vitality and learning to let go and to compost that energy. They literally call the third decan of Scorpio debauchery, because it is the types of energy that we, or the things that we do to keep a form, a physical form, alive, even when its vital essence has left it. And there's all sorts of challenging things that we as human beings do to prop up something that really needs to be let go of, including getting wrapped up in things that aren't healthy for us. So that's something to consider with this. Mars, as your ascendant ruler, is really focusing on career, and maybe there's some conflict in your career. Maybe you had a really difficult week with the Mars-Uranus square over your 10th and 7th house, a difficult conversation with an authority figure or with a partner around a career issue or with how you express yourself publicly. There could have been some shocking revelation around that, or some shocking conflicts. Just take your time with it, Scorpio. I think the way that Scorpio, to me, works with grace, and especially you got the South Node there, you got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. You know, like if we talk about another musical reference, you got to know when to let go with Scorpio in particular. And you need the faith that they talk about with Scorpio, and the higher form of it, and the eagle being able to transcend, is sometimes you're going to have to act on letting go without knowing the outcome, and release some of that crisis consciousness, that defensive energy because really what Scorpio is doing is defending the dying life force with every ounce of their being. And oftentimes that's necessary, and we need people like that who are good in crisis. They're great crisis workers. But oftentimes we can extend that energy into other areas of our life where it's not as productive, and can create a kind of an energy that is just too intense and too extreme for that situation. And we don't necessarily have to be in fight or flight in every single area of our life for Scorpio rising here, for Scorpio placements. So that faith that comes in is letting go of the form, and knowing that the energy that's liberated from that will allow you to have a rebirth, to find a new form, and then you'll become the eagle that flies high, and that is able to just get out of the emotional sewer that sometimes we find ourselves in with Scorpio placements. And I say we because I've Uranus in Scorpio 3 in my 4th house, and there's some emotional sewers in regards to my roots that I sometimes get fixated on, that I have to just let go, So that's Scorpio rising. And you got Jupiter in your 7th house right now. There might be some positive planning you're making with a partner right now that could lead to some beneficial things moving forward in the future. Okay. Painted Turtle says, Saturn in Pisces, bud. It's time to bring the melancholy music back. You're right. I believe that the Smashing Pumpkins released Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness around last Saturn in Pisces time. Yeah, that was the thing. It was tough. I'm good at writing the sad songs. I'm good at helping people to feel pain and grief. And I grew up in the grunge era, so a lot of that was an influence on me. And the Leo part of me is like, I don't want to bum people out, but maybe there's catharsis in that. So we'll see. Maybe it's the right time for my musical voice again. Don says, that's so ironic. I was literally going to ask you, Spencer, because I have a Scorpio stellium in the 12th, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, but I've always been opposed to escapism. Is that my Saturn in the 6th? I mean, I think Saturn in the 6th is, maybe it's keeping you grounded. And I don't even know if the Scorpio stellium in the 12th is escapism. I think that Saturn may be keeping you from relaxing, from letting go and flowing with the Tao. There's maybe roadblocks to getting the peace that you need, to getting the release that you need. There may be a blockage to actually letting go of the old forms, and you're going to have to answer, Dawn, what that means to you, like as far as what it means to you to have peace, what it means to you to have solitude, and to be able to release the tension that comes from constantly being in a heightened state of awareness around your either physical, emotional, or spiritual security, right? And we all have a part of ourselves that's like that. We all, like for me, Scorpio is my 4th house. So in my family, I didn't really feel safe. I didn't really feel secure growing up. I had a lot of change that happened. There was a lot of threatening types of environments that I grew up in. I had some pretty violent step parents. I had some substance abuse step parents too, an alcoholic stepdad when I was really young, and I had a really violent alcoholic Aries stepmom who, some of my earliest memories were of her just beating the shit out of my dad. So that's an expression of Scorpio in the 4th house with Uranus there. And it's taken me a number of years to figure out how I can not be in fight or flight mode in my own home all the time, right? How do I let go of those old forms and that old trauma so I can just be at peace in that area of my life? So that's something to consider to Scorpio people. Like where in your life do you need to heal from a trauma where you were forced into fight or flight? Like some people, like Scorpio 10th house, they might find that in their work. They might do very dangerous work on some level. But who knows? I have Taurus on the midheaven, so I find it very relaxing doing this work here. Like I don't like getting into arguments with people on this channel because I want peace in my work. In fact, I almost refuse to get into arguments with people here. I have so much. I have enough drama in my personal life that in my public life I've tried to steer clear of it, while still being realistic, while still acknowledging the pain that exists in the world without trying to escape from it, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Without trying to whitewash it or anything like that. Okay. Dawn says I use my faith and meditation. Some say that is my escapism. I don't think so, Dawn. I think we all need to find ways to cope with the experience that we have. And if I don't think people are going to get on your case if you're just sitting there in silence, breathing and meditating. That's, unless it's taking you away from your other responsibilities, then that's another question. But I think you're allowed some space to meditate. Okay, Sagittarius rising. We're coming around the bend here. So we have a 2nd and 8th house full moon. We have Saturn providing grist for the mill or mycelial material from the 4th house for this full moon. We have Jupiter, your ruling planet, in the 6th house. So there may be a focus for you on hard work right now and planning for the future, maybe even a physical illness or a challenge or an injury or something that you might be having to deal with or rehab from or something like that. There's a lot of focus on how you receive and give help, either physically or financially, to others right now. There may be new things starting with that, and you may have to do some toiling and hard work to make some of the resources that you need to support yourself. Okay, there could be some corruption exposed in how you manage your resources. You may be really reevaluating like the roles that you play within your family and the responsibilities that you have in your family. I know I've said this a number of times in the past, but my Sag rising friends, some clients that I worked at, are going through a lot of them feel a little bit grounded right now. Like they have a lot of family responsibilities that are making their freedom of movement feel less. But again, freedom is not lack of responsibilities in our life. Freedom is a state of mind. So how can you choose to be free in your mind, even if you have to be physically in one particular place, right? So I think that's something to consider, Sagittarius rising. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep on moving. Keep on moving. Capricorn rising. You last 3 signs are always so patient. Someday we'll do it in reverse. I don't know when that day is. It just makes sense doing it this way, but so it goes. All right, Cap rising. So you have this in an angular house. There's a lot of focus on your partnerships with the sun in Cancer. There may be some new ideas that come to you this weekend, July 1st, with a Cazimi in the 7th house. I know in our particular household, there's been a lot of focus on our partnership because I've been chauffeuring my lovely partner, Tanya, to work every day. So we've been spending more time going back and forth and taking her to and from work. So, and we've been thinking about all the ways we can support each other, and it's all good. It's just different. Capricorn rising, you may be thinking about how to balance out your needs versus the needs of someone else. Okay, and within all sorts of relationships potentially. Pluto is retrograded back into your first house, so there's some loose ends to tie up about who you are and who you want to be. Pluto has been grinding across your first house and ascendant for decades now, and you've gone through some really intense changes, and there's still some things to, like I said, loose ends to tie up there before you move on to another thing. Saturn is the ruler of your ascendant, and it is retrograding in your third house. So again, in my household, my partner literally, her vehicle just died like about a month ago. We've been doing this dance for like a month, and her daily routine has been completely shifted and having to be reevaluated. So you may have some reevaluations with your daily habits, your daily routine. There could be some challenges with a sibling also that you may be experiencing, and you may want to keep an eye on your siblings and reach out to them and make sure that you're communicating with them if they're going through a tough period of time also. You may be doing some planning for having more fun in your life too. I think this is important as a Cap rising, to learn when to relax and when to keep grinding and when to just say, you know what, this would be fun. So figuring out some things that might be fun for you might be part of your Jupiter and Taurus in the fifth house type of energy as well. Carol says you could start with the sign the sun or the moon is in. That way it would revolve. Ooh, that's a good idea. Mortal Mile, Carol. It's a really good idea. I think I will try to incorporate that next time. So that's a great idea. I wonder if you solved the mystery of the little jumping egg too. We had a conversation, me and Carol, on Instagram about this little weird egg that she found in her garden that I thought was maybe a salamander that had dried out or something, but interesting. Okay, so Aquarius rising. Oops, coming towards coming around the bend here. All right, so Aquarius rising, you've got Saturn with the ascendant here too. So this is a 6th and 12th house full moon. You've got Saturn providing resources from the 2nd house. Okay, and Jupiter is angular for you in the 4th. You just are coming off of Mercury Cazimi in the 6th house, some new ideas about how you go about your work, how you toil. Maybe there's some new ideas that come that will alleviate some of the feelings that you have of being, of grinding through your daily work, of ideas of how you can bring things to completion. 6th house is always about like the things that pull us away from completion. So maybe that you have some ideas about the things that may be getting in the way of you completing stuff. And you may be working really hard with the sun in the 6th house, and it might be just time for a rest. It may be time to do some meditation, to let go and have some solitude, have a rest, have a recharge. Saturn's retrograding through your 2nd house, so there's probably some financial pressure. There's a lot of financial narratives that are going on about what you really need and what you really don't, and how you support yourself versus, maybe you're, I don't know, how you team up with others as well because of Mercury's Cazimi and it providing resources for the 8th house. There could be new ideas around that. It's just Saturn in the 2nd house says, get real about your budget. It says like, have a budget, reevaluate it. What belief systems are contributing to how you make your money, and whether you believe you can, or the limitations that you have. Jupiter in the 4th house could be a really nice time for your family, for your home. There could be plans for an expansion or a remodel in your home. Just be really careful about this, Aquarius rising, if you're remodeling your home, that you don't go over budget, because Saturn is probably saying, you might not, it's going to cost a little more than you thought. Like, That always happens in those projects. And Jupiter, this is another possibility. Mercury Cazimi in the 6th house could also be hiring a new contractor or somebody that works for you that will help you out with this, whatever this project that seems to be 4th house related potentially could be. Okay. So Dimfy says, hi, Dawn. Meditation means that you'll be able to focus, be in balance, and be able to look after your well-being, as well as bring harmony to your surroundings. No escapism, just doing good work. I agree with that. I agree. Dawn says, my husband calls it escapism because I'm not working. He's a Cap rising. Ooh. Relaxing does not come easy to him at all. Well, then Dawn, that's him. That's on him. That's not on you. We all have different experiences, and communication is the key. Don't make assumptions about that he understands why you need to do that. Just clear communication can help us in our relationships so much. And claiming some of that time, even in married partnerships or whatnot, we don't have to do things exactly the same all the time. And that's actually what will help a relationship last, is giving your space partner to be them while you are able to be yourself within it. And a relationship's going to end real quick when one or both people aren't allowed to be a true expression of them, of who they really are. Carol says, it disappeared, so I'm hoping it is hatched as a newborn newt. Nice. In reference to the little egg that we were talking about. Okay, let's finish this up, Pisces rising. And I think I will try Carol's suggestion next time to start with the rising sign where the sun is in. That's a good one. That's a good suggestion. So finally, Pisces rising, you have a full moon over the 11th and 5th house axis. Saturn is hanging out in your 1st house, retrograding, which is probably not the most fun, but very probably enlightening as far as helping you to feel a new sense of personal responsibility, and it's really challenging you to understand the personal narratives about who you are and what your role might be in the world and your character. There's also probably some things related to your body that have come up. Jupiter, your ruling planet of the 1st house, is moving through Taurus and going through the 3rd house, causing you to maybe have some nice experiences of learning. This is I would say a learning time for Pisces rising, like starting a new educational experience, connecting with your local environment, starting to trust your physical body and intuition rather than detaching, okay? And becoming too often left field. This is about getting grounded once again. You may have some new ideas about your the ways that you seek to entertain yourself or seek pleasure. There may also be some challenges with how your own needs fit in with the needs of the group. There may be some corruption that's becoming revealed once again with Pluto moving through the 11th house. And there may be just a lot of hard work to be able to connect and build something ambitious with a group right now too, if you're Pisces rising. So I hope that has been helpful for you. Thank you so much, Artemis, for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Painter says Cancer risings win either way. Okay, so that is your full moon through the houses. Hopefully that was helpful for you. We're going to finish off today with a hexagram. And we have a hexagram today, number 20. And number 20 it translates to viewing, observation, contemplation, serving as an example, taking an overview, understanding, self-examination, spiritual connection, inner clarity that leads to successful action out in the world. This hexagram was compared to an observation tower where you could see a long distance. So Capricorn is a sign and a season that it really does try to take the long view. It tries to plan for the future and try to build a material foundation for future security. So that could be a part of what this full moon is about for everyone as well. And thank you so much, Rachel, for the super sticker. I appreciate you. There's one changing line. It says, viewing my life, Decide whether to advance or to retreat. So this changing line speaks towards thinking about things not necessarily just in terms of how your actions affect you. It's about thinking about the effect that your actions have on others, on your community. How effective have you been in what you're doing? You want to be able to self-critique your efforts without self-flagellation. I think that's important. Oftentimes people with Capricorn moons can be really hard on themselves if they have that natally. So we want to make sure that we're not overly hard on our bodies and on our minds and on our expectations at this full moon too. Okay. I think thinking about the consequences, which is a Saturn word, of your actions up to this point is important. And again, that may require some adjustments. That may require you releasing some old belief systems. It may require you changing the method that you have always done something. And it may be because you have to adjust to the circumstances of your present. Those circumstances could be changes in your family life, in your career. They could be adjusting to the changes that we all are experiencing in the climate and with nature right now as well. So coming to terms with that reality could be part of this, okay? So by evaluating, the I-Ching tells us that will tell us whether it's important for us to advance and move forward or to retreat. And the I-Ching teaches us that it's okay to retreat sometimes. It's okay to back off of a plan that we had and change our mind. It's okay to reevaluate. If we've been moving in a direction that hasn't been productive, maybe we need to move in a different direction. It's okay to reverse course, especially with Saturn retrograde ruling this moon. There may be some things that we have to say, you know what, that just isn't working. It's okay to turn it around, okay, U-turn. This is moving to hexagram number 53, which translates to developing gradually, gradual advance, slow and steady development, progress, step by step, faithfulness, persistence. Capricorn doesn't do anything just willy-nilly. It's literally a goat that climbs a mountain, or a sea goat, right? There is a secret story with Capricorn that's associated with the story of Precus, the sea goat, the god of the sea goats, the son of Kronos, Saturn, that continually tries to turn back time to keep his children from leaving the sea. And he fails every single time. They keep leaving. He has the ability to turn back time, and they keep leaving. And finally, he's like, just let me die. He talks to his dad, Kronos, just let me die. I'm so sad and lonely. And then Kronos is like, okay, I'll put you into the sky as a constellation. So there may also be with this full moon a desire to go back to some sort of golden era that may or may not have existed, that we're trying to hold on to. I think this really ties in all of the discussions we've had with climate change. I think that there's a desire to go back to a time that we may have lived in the past that just is not our reality anymore. I've been feeling this maybe I just didn't even completely appreciate the quote unquote the before times, right? Which weren't perfect, but you could go outside without having the sky be filled with smoke most of the time in some areas. Not true for everyone. But I think that there's this that's the nostalgia of Capricorn, like this desire for this golden age that maybe isn't even real. So think about that. Realize that slow and steady progress wins the race with Saturn. You're not going to be able to rush a process. I think this moon in second decan of Capricorn is very process orientated, and you have to evaluate all the resources you have, whether they're financial, whether it's support from your community, or whether it's from your body itself. How much energy do you have? And be realistic about that, because oftentimes we really overestimate the amount of energy we have for a certain project, and we can just fall flat on our face if we don't honor our body. So honor your body this period of time. The animal I got for you was really interesting to me, especially with the smoke. I got the canary. I think today has been a little bit of a canary show. Maybe the canary is me. Maybe the canary is you. I think that there is Canaries were often used, that you've heard the expression canary in a coal mine, right? It would send a canary down into the mine shaft to determine whether it was safe to breathe, literally. And if the canary didn't come back out, it was a problem. It was a canary in a coal mine is like a warning. It is a symbol of something potentially going very, very wrong. And it is important to answer that clarion call, okay, to be able to acknowledge if something is going wrong. And we have little canaries around us all the time that are showing us that changes need to be made. But canaries also are associated with the power of song and speech and creative expression. People have been encouraging me to pick up my guitar again and write some music, and maybe that's part of this canary message. Canaries are beautiful, beautiful birds that can symbolize light within darkness as well. So think about how you can, maintain your hope and your spark of hope, even when things seem darkest, right? How can you still sing when things seem bleak? How can you really uplift others with your song, uplift others with your message? I hope that the things that we've talked about today have not just been a big dose of reality sandwich, but also uplifting. I always want to give people a turnaround, and I always want to give people actionable advice that will bring hope and expansion, and also the power of letting go and the restorative power of letting go into their life. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much, friends, for going on this journey with me, for all of your beautiful comments, for the super stickers. Thank you so much for all of your generosity, for all of your great ideas, for all of your open-mindedness about change and about other people's viewpoints and opinions. And I hope that I've honored all of your perspectives today. And if I was too harsh about any of it, I apologize, and I value your opinion. Sometimes I just get fired up about things, and I really do appreciate everyone that stops in and contributes. So appreciate all of you. Rachel says, with her super sticker, I hope it's organic cacao in the mug. Thanks for everything you've offered us here today, Spencer. Oh, thank you, friend. Yes, I've been drinking yerba mate in my moose mug. Moose is one of my animal teachers, I think. It's about honoring. One book I have talks about honoring grandfather type of wisdom. I've lived my life sort of as like a grandparent type figure. I would say almost like in a semi-retired state. And moose energy is about putting away the war paint and teaching the young ones about life and being a guide. I think this maybe is a 12th house vibe too, or just like, all right, grandpa's got to rest a little bit here before engaging with all this again. Rachel says, oh man, I don't know what that says. Reculer pour mieux satur. Take a step back in order to make a better advance. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes we have to regroup again. Yes. Carolyn Perkins says, my childhood flute teacher had a canary, and it would only sing when one played a harmonic that was pure. It's beautiful, Carolyn. I hope that we've struck a pure tone today. And thank you, Painted Turtle, for your encouragement. So, friends, that is what I have for you here today. Please, please, please like and subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the email list for updates, send me feedback on classes and things that you want to see, get on a waiting list for my future offerings, sign up for the group class. I would just love to be able to connect with all of you. We start July 10th, guided group study. We're going to meet every other week for 3 months. Payment plans available upon request. So if you're needing to space out the payment, I totally understand. I'm willing to work with you in whatever way you need to be worked with. And yeah, this has been fun. And maybe we'll see you next week for my birthday. My birthday is next Friday. It would be fun to spend some of that time with you, whether it's the day of or sometime around then. So that's what I've got for you today. Remember, throughout all this stuff, maintain your hope. Thank you, Scarlett, for the super sticker. Appreciate you. Maintain your hope. Maintain your your positivity while acknowledging the challenges that we're going through. You're going to get through this challenge with kindness, you know, both being gentle with yourself, not so hard on yourself, but also kind to others as they're going through just similar suffering, maybe in different ways, different experiences, but we're all going through some challenging times. So giving people some extra grace, I think, is a good idea during this time. So that's what I've got today. I'll talk to you the next time. Peace.